Going live.
Okay.
All right, we are live. Right? Yeah.
Oh,
All
so
right.
you told him an earlier time, so he thought he was
Need a
so
drink.
late, but he said,
All right. So your camera just turned.
It's tracking you.
Oh, it's tracking me. I don't want it to track me. So thank you all for coming today. And for those of you who don't know me, I'm Jackie Meadows, the Education Director. And I'm going to be in your offices throughout the month of June. And we're going to continue a little bit of the conversation that Ira is going to have today when it comes to Cole Realty and how to use Cole Realty in the way that he's talking about. Not that it's tied together, it's just the way it's working. I want to welcome the Elkhart and South Bend agents who are attending this event through the live stream. So welcome to them. And before you stands Ira Nadich, and Ira Nadich is a 25-year veteran realtor. He's a veteran of the United States Army. Yeah. So we appreciate that. And he is going to go through 3 hours of intense training, and he's going to talk to you also about the Mike Ferry Superstar Retreat that is in July. That is amazing. I personally attended the Superstar Retreat several times. It will jumpstart your career if you're brand new in the business. It will jumpstart your career. If you can't afford to go, that means you can't afford not to go, because you will learn the skills necessary so that you can afford to take vacations and enjoy life. So it is truly an investment in your life, not just your career. So I'm going to turn it over to Ira and take good notes, ask questions. I can tell you that the Illinois group yesterday, 87 agents, they were a little quiet. Ira would like more involvement, but they were all saying the reason your phone is, I don't know where it's tracking. I believe it's because he is so thorough in what he is delivering. But as a trainer, I know when you guys ask questions, it helps the trainer. So participation is appreciated.
Good morning, everybody. Good morning. So let's rephrase something that Jackie said, because she was being so kind and so politically correct. Yesterday's group was brain dead. Okay? They were brain dead. That was the deadest group. I've been a speaker now for 5 years. I travel all over the country, and it was a good group. They were all nice people. They were all very friendly. They were all very interested. It was the deadest group I've ever spoken to in 5 years. Okay? And you're not going to be that, are you? No. No. You're not going to be that, are you? No. Okay. So this is going to be interactive. You know, we want you to participate, because I'm able to help you the best if questions that are on your mind get answered. Okay? Fair enough? Okay. So what I'd like you to do, make sure you're all taking good notes. Everybody got their pen and paper out, or their computers, or whatever they're doing? Okay? Good. So I'd like you to write down 5 questions. Question number 1. How has your life changed in the last 5 years? How has your life changed in the last 5 years? ... Is it better or worse? How has your life changed in the last 5 years? Is it better or worse? Now, some of you are brand new in the business. Some of you are veterans. But in any case, we take a look at what we've done in the past and where we are now, and we say, am I where I want to be? Okay? Am I where I want to be? Am I doing better than I was? Is there anybody here that gets up in the morning and says, I've done too much in the last few years. I want to slow down and not make as much money? No? Who wants to make more money? Okay? You're in the right place. Okay? Who wants to sell more homes? Of course you want to sell more homes. You don't have your license yet. You haven't sold any homes yet. When you sell your first home, it's more homes. Okay? Good for you. Okay? So she's in the right place. I mean, doesn't even have her license yet and is here. So good for you. Now, how many people here in the business less than 1 year? Okay, stand up if you've been in the business less than 1 year. And stay standing. Okay, stay standing. I want you to really look around at each other and who's in the room. And that's because NAR teaches us that 85% of the people that get their licenses are out of the business in 18 months. So you'll probably never see each other again, and you at least ought to see each other now. Okay? Okay, good. Have your seats. Have your seats. Thanks. Okay? But you're in the right place, and you're not going to be part of that 85%. Okay? You're going to be the ones that soar in this business, and you can do so well. Question number 2. Has your business changed, and is it growing at this time? Has your business changed, and is it growing at this time? Hopefully it's growing. We have had such a growth in real estate that for your business not to grow took extreme effort. Okay? For your business not to grow took extreme effort. I mean, prices are way up. Sales have been up. Inventory is down. Okay? Now, if you're basically a buyer's agent, you're thinking, where has he been? Yeah, it's been hard. You know, I'm taking all these buyers and I write contracts and I don't get the offers, and then I take the same buyer out and they finally get a house after the 5th offer, and then they walk away because of the home inspection and I have to start all over. Well, we're going to help you with that too. We're going to help you with that too. Question number 3. Is your income, what is your income now? What is your income now? And where do you expect it to be in 5 years? What is your income now, and where do you expect it to be in 5 years? Who would like to be earning a lot more money 5 years from now? Okay? It's easy. You do the things that we teach you in the Mike Ferry organization. Mike's got a program that just won't quit. Okay? And we believe truly with our hearts that if you do what we teach you, your business should grow at a minimum of 20% per year. 20% per year. Anybody got a calculator handy? Anybody here got a calculator?
We all have our phones.
Oh, she's got one. Good. So what's an average salary? Should we say $100,000? Type in $100,000. Add 20% to it. 120,000. That's year 1. Add 20% to it. 144. That's year 2. Add 20% to it.
172,800.
172,800. That's year 3. Add 20% to it.
207,360.
I'm sorry?
207,360.
Okay, 207,360. That's year 4. Add 20% to it.
248,830.
248. So call it 250. So if you're making $100,000 today, that's $250,000, $250,000, just 5 years from now. It goes up 150% over 5 years. If you're making $200,000 today, well, then you're at $500,000 just 5 years from now. Who would like to see that level of growth? Okay? Everybody would. Now, that's the bad news. The good news is that if you're just getting started with us, we normally see a lot more than 20% growth the first year. Okay? We see a lot more than 20% growth the first year. Okay? What's the average commission check in this area? $8,000, $10,000? Is that fair? That's what it was yesterday. Is it a little less
Lower
here?
here.
A little lower here? 5,000? Okay, fair enough. $5,000. Okay? Our average agent in coaching does 52 deals a year. So that'd be about $250,000, $260,000 a year with $5,000 commission. Okay? I love coming to the Chicago area. My son and daughter-in-law, but more importantly, my oldest grandson. They lived in Lake Station, just down the street from you, for a few years, and we used to come here to visit them all the time. When I was in college and afterwards, I came to Chicago all the time because my parents lived there. I was commissioned in the Army at the University of Illinois Chicago Circle. So that's where I got my commissioning, and I was an Illinois state resident for all 20 years in the Army. You know why? I never lived there, but it would be home because my parents lived there. But Illinois doesn't charge state income tax for military if you're not stationed in the state. So if I had been at Scott Air Force Base, of course I would have paid income tax, but I didn't have to pay state income tax. I like not paying taxes, okay? So I came here all the time. I was a Bears fan, I was a Cubs fan. My dad and I used to walk to the Cubs game. Are most people here Bears fans? I'm sorry, White Sox fans or Cubs fans? Okay, how many Cubs fans, raise your hand? How many White Sox fans, raise your hand? Okay, you three can leave. Okay? Okay. How many people don't give a crap? Okay. Question number 4. Are your assets growing? Are your assets growing, or are they shrinking? And where do you want them to be in 5 years? Are your assets growing, or are they shrinking? And where do you want them to be in 5 years? See, as you grow your income, you grow your assets, whether it's a retirement fund, whether it's nice paintings for your wall, whether it's Rolex watches, or whether it's a nice car. You know, whatever it is, you grow your assets, and that has value to you the rest of your life. That's something you can strive for. You can go on nicer vacations, okay? And number 5, physically, do you feel better than 5 years ago, or do you want to feel better 5 years from now? Do you feel better? Do you feel better than 5 years ago, and do you want to feel better 5 years from now? Now that's important. Now some of you may say, now wait a minute, this is real estate. I'm a realtor. Isn't this a real estate class? Yes, it is. Who wants to do better at real estate? Be physically fit and have a higher level of excitement, of energy, of enthusiasm, okay? Now right now, I gotta tell you, I'm getting scared. You guys are about as dead as the people yesterday, okay? You're writing, okay? So the statistics I'm going to give now are for the greater Chicago area. I recognize yours are a little bit different, okay? But it's for the greater Chicago area. Over the past year, inventory in the Chicago metropolitan area has averaged just 2.1 months. Now, for those of you that are newer in the business, that doesn't mean a lot. It means that there's about 2 months of inventory on average for which to sell. Homes stay on the market about that long. Now I know the ones that are priced right sell in about 6 minutes with multiple offers, okay? But then there's also the ones that average in there with the greedy sellers that it's a $300,000 house and they want $500,000 for that house, and some agent takes the listing, okay? And then their manager says, why did you take that listing? And they say, well, that's what the seller wanted, okay? And it sits there for 6 months, okay? But the average is about 2.1 months, okay? Now that's a decrease from the previous year of 0.8 months, so it was a little bit higher before then. But you've experienced this kind of stuff. Is it easy when you're working with a buyer? Is it easy when you're working with a buyer to find them a house? No, okay? But yet we spend a lot of time with them, okay? We spend a lot of time with them. When you take a buyer out, it takes a few hours? And then maybe you write a contract and maybe you don't. Then you take them out for a few more hours and maybe they write a contract and maybe they don't. And then you write the offer and you're competing with 5 or 6 other people and you don't get the house and you start the whole process over again. It takes a lot of time. It's hard work to be a buyer's agent. It's hard work. It takes a lot of time. Okay? Now, for listing agents, it's been a lot more fun. For listing agents, it's been a lot more fun. Right now, the average listing is selling in 6 days and has an average of 5 offers. Okay? Now remember, That's not a difference. Yes, there's 2 months inventory, but because of those that aren't selling at all or that are overpriced. But those that are selling right away, they're selling in an average of 6 days and have an average of 5 offers. Home sales are up 7.2% over the past 12 months versus a national average of a decrease of 3.2%. A national average of a decrease in sales, 3.2%. Since the market bottomed out in 2012, how many people here were in the business in 2012? Okay, we remember those days, don't we? Okay, they weren't fun. Okay, since the bottom in 2012, prices have risen a lot. In the greater Chicago area, the median price of a house is now $345,000. That's a 4.8% increase in the past 12 months. So again, your area might be a little bit different, but the fact of the matter is people are making money on their investments, aren't they? Okay? Buying a house has been a good gig. Okay? Now, inventory was 15,684 in March, but 17,234 in April. Inventory's going up. I mean, it's up 1,600 just in the last month, again, in the entire Chicago area, the greater metropolitan area. So while it's true that inventory remains low, we're seeing an increase throughout North America. We're seeing an increase throughout North America. We're beginning to see a change in the market. Who's seeing a change in the market? What kind of change are you seeing?
Well, instead of 20 offers on the house, we get.
I'm sorry?
Instead of 20 offers, we get like 3, 4.
Instead of 20 offers, you're getting 3. Who else is seeing a change? What kind of change are you seeing?
Longer time on market, more price reductions.
Longer time on market, more price reductions, okay? Who's been in the business less than 3 years? Okay, a couple of you. You never had to take a price reduction. You didn't even know what the term price reduction meant. You didn't know what that meant or what expired meant, okay? Well, we're gonna, right? Short sale. How many people here don't know what a short sale is? We're not gonna cover short sales, but you know, terms have changed. We're gonna have to learn new things. Who else has seen other changes in the market? Anybody else seeing any other changes in the market? Okay, what other changes in the market you see? Inflation. And how is inflation affecting the market? We're gonna talk more about that later. I'm sorry? I'm sorry?
Income, dispensable income.
Dispensable income, okay? Okay, it's really taking the first time home buyers out of business, okay? And we'll talk more about that, okay? How many of you here have been in the business for over 15 years? Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, okay, 7, okay? About 7 people, okay? They've seen a lot of change. They've seen ups and downs, and we're going to be seeing more and more of that. Now, I know that we've got some of you in Elkhart and some of you in South Bend, and hopefully you're taking these notes at the same time. I'm not trying to ignore you. I've got this camera following me wherever I walk, so I can't really miss you, and we're glad you're with us as well. Okay? On the other end of the spectrum, how many in this room remember, maybe you weren't in the business, but remember the late 70s and 80s and early 80s? Okay? What were interest rates then? Do you remember?
18, 20.
18, 20. You know, when I bought my first home in Fayetteville, North Carolina, interest rates were 18%. 18%. And yet people were still buying and selling homes. I mean, think about it. We're right now complaining, oh my God, interest rates are up to 5.5. How am I going to get people to buy? As long as people are born, as long as people die, as long as people get married, as long as people get divorced, as long as people get transferred, as long as people move for personal reasons, you know, there's always going to be people buying and selling homes. It doesn't matter what the interest rate is. And we as realtors, can we affect the interest rate? Do we control whether it goes up or down? No, so don't worry about it. Understand it. It's important to understand it because we've got to be able to explain these things to our buyers and sellers and how it impacts on them. but it doesn't impact our ability to buy and sell homes with our clients and for our clients. Okay? It's important for it to understand it, but it doesn't impact our business because people will still be buying and people will still be selling. We can't take credit when they make a lot of money on a house, but we can't take the blame when they lose money on a house. And we may see some prices starting to come down. Okay? So what Mike asked me to talk about today is solving the inventory problem. Solving the inventory problem. And that's what we're going to focus our time on. So point number one. We're continually asked what's going to happen in the market over the next 6 to 12 months. We're continually asked what's going to happen in the market in the next 6 to 12 months. Any ideas? What kind of things are we going to see in the next 6 to 12 months? Anybody have any ideas?
Slower appreciation.
Slower appreciation. Okay, absolutely. In fact, we're starting to see that already, aren't we? Okay? Prices are going to start to level out, and in fact, they may even start to fall. Okay? They may even start to fall. Now, probably not a real big fall. We're not going to see it like we did, in 2008, 2009 to 2012. We're not going to see that. Okay? We're probably not going to see short sales, or not in big numbers at all, because it's a completely different dynamic today. Okay? We've got a shortage of inventory. Back then, we did not have a shortage of inventory. So people bought their homes, and then the prices fell so far that when they tried to sell their home, they owed a lot more on the home than what they had paid for it. Well, today it's completely different. Prices have gone up so much that there are people that can't make their payments, and they're going to be foreclosed on, but they've still got equity. You know what we call that in real estate as a real estate agent? You know what we call that?
Opportunity?
We call it opportunity. We call it opportunity. Because see, these are nice people. They are good people. Okay, they're hardworking people. But for whatever reason, they're down on their luck. And they're not able to make their payments. Don't wait for them to get foreclosed on. Start calling them and help them. Okay? You'll be able to put $50,000, $100,000, maybe more than that in their pockets because their prices are up here, but their mortgage is down here because of all the appreciation we've seen. Okay? So we call it opportunity. Okay? So letter A. Inventory in many areas is increasing. Inventory in many areas is increasing. And this is letter A of what's going to happen over the next 6 to 12 months. Expired listings are rising as greedy sellers price their homes at unrealistic levels. Are you seeing that? Are you seeing that? Yeah. And you think, that house isn't going anywhere. Well, then we have the spring and summer market, and we have the additional listings from the spring and summer market, people that want to move during the summer before the next school year. Now, just 14 months ago, interest rates were at about 2.25%. Okay? Interest rates were at 2.25%. Where are they today?
5 to 6.
5, 5.5. Okay? 5, 5.5. How does that impact our inventory? How does an increase in interest affect our inventory? You had mentioned it earlier. People have a harder time buying. How else does it affect the inventory? Any thoughts?
I think it would help because when I know people I've talked to, they say, well, shit, rates are going up, buyers are going to start getting scared, so we've already missed the clients with the climax of the market, let's get it on the market.
Yeah, so that's right. So that people will get their homes on the market now because we can educate them that interest rates are probably going to continue to go up. Now, are they probably going to continue to go up, or are they absolutely going to continue to go up? Probably? Probably? Okay. Anybody think absolutely? Absolutely, absolutely. I think absolutely. So why do we think absolutely? Well, let's think about it. The Fed determines what the discount rate is, correct? Correct? Do we all understand that? Now, the Fed doesn't determine mortgage rates. Mortgage rates are determined by the 10-year bond. But it's all impacted by the Fed's rising of the interest rates. It's impacted ultimately from that. The Fed has already said they're going to continue to raise rates. And the reason they raise rates is to combat inflation. Okay? So rates are going to go up. We know that. They've already announced it. They just haven't told us how much or what date. Okay? And as long as inflation continues, interest rates will go up. So we're predicting that by the end of this year, interest rates will be upwards to 6, maybe even 7. Now, I was doing some research a couple nights ago on the internet, going to Google and finding out what other economic experts are predicting. And by 2026, that's only 4 years away. Now, to some of you that are very, very young, 4 years is a long time. To us old people, I mean, I'm 67. 4 years is like tomorrow. Okay? So by 2026, they're predicting that interest rates will be between 8 and 9%. Okay? Now, we don't know that that'll happen, and they don't know that'll happen. That's a prediction. We know that in the short term, interest rates are going to go up. They're predicting that it'll go up even more over the next few years. Well, we need to understand that as real estate professionals so that we can explain that to our clients and how it's going to affect them. And yes, it'll cause some of them to put their homes on the market now because as prices start to level off, they want to do something before prices actually fall. It also, though, should get buyers to be more energetic and increase their sense of urgency because they want to buy now before prices go, before interest rates go higher. Now, some buyers will say, has anybody ever heard this? I'm going to wait till prices come back down. Okay? Yeah. Plan on staying in your house for the next 5 to 10 years then. Because yes, prices may come down, but do the math. Do the math for them. You all have real estate calculators, correct? Do the math for them. I'd rather buy a house at $300,000 at 5 or 5.5% than at $275,000 at 6 or 7%. Okay? So we've got to be able to educate them that time is not their friend. That time is not their friend. And not only that, but then they sit in a rental for extra length of time. Their rents keep going up, and they're not building any equity. Okay? So letter A, we're continually asked what's going to happen to the market, is inventory in many areas is increasing. Letter B, interest rates will continue to rise, and we've covered that point as well. Interest rates will continue to rise is point letter B. Letter C, prices are starting to flatten out and in some cases are declining. We've talked about that already. Okay? As interest rates rise, inventory rises, buyers have more choices. Okay, but when that happens, prices tend to flatten out and even decrease in some cases. We're still going to have very low inventory. We're still going to have very low inventory. How many months? Did you have a question?
No, I was just gonna comment on the inventory part.
Yes.
Because I was talking to a lender the other day, and he said in 2 weeks' time, he did 7 loans, and the people aren't putting their houses on the market because they have such a low interest rate on their current house, they're just renting it out.
You know,
That has affected us as well.
that does. You bet. So when people keep their homes because they've got low interest rates, they don't want to give up that rate and they keep it as a rental. Not only that, but how many people here in the room own rental properties? Okay, a few of you. It's a great time to have rental properties because as interest rates rise, and as it becomes more difficult for people to qualify for the homes they want or qualify for anything, they have to have some place to live. This is a good time to be a landlord. Okay? So you may want to consider buying homes. And when you start buying homes as investments, what does that do to the inventory? Brings it down even more. Very good point. Thank you. Okay? Now, how many months' supply how many months supply does it take for us to have what we call a balanced market?
6.
Six. And right now we're at about 2. So even if inventory rises, and even if days on market increases, does anybody really think it's going to get to 6 months supply anytime soon? So we're going to continue to have a seller's market. We're going to continue to have a seller's market. Now for the newer agents in the room, do you understand what we mean by balanced market? Is that a yes, a no? Do you understand what a balanced market is? Okay, good. Then speak up. Speak up. Okay? So for those of you that are newer, a balanced market is when neither buyer nor seller have an advantage. Right now, because of a shortage of inventory, the seller has all of the advantages. Okay? So you're not seeing things that us older people have seen in the past. You don't see sellers on a regular basis offering concessions. Sellers aren't paying down points for the buyers, because they don't have to. Or anything. Or warranty, they don't have to. Because if you don't want the house, somebody else will take it. Okay?
They don't even want to fix it.
They don't even want to fix it. And they don't have to. Okay? Because if you don't take it, if your buyer buys the house and then walks away, it's been 3 weeks, they can probably get more money from the next buyer. Okay? So we don't see that. But then if things go on the other end, some of us remember when there were 9 months of supply and even 12 months of supply. We remember those days. Well then, sellers were paying points, sellers were paying closing costs. I mean, there were all kinds of things going on. 6 months is that balancing point. That's that tipping point in the fulcrum that it balances out. Does that make sense now? Okay. Letter D. Letter D. Price reductions are in play again. Price reductions are in play again. Who here has never had to ask for a price reduction from any seller? Oh, I'm surprised. Some of the new people, I'm surprised you haven't had to ask for one. Okay, so that means if you've never had to ask for a price reduction, I'm sorry, if you've been asking for a price reduction and you're newer, you've been big time overpricing homes because they should have been selling fairly quickly without price reductions. But that's okay. Good for you for asking for the price reductions and getting them sold. Okay? It's going to start being a regular thing. You're going to have to increase your skills in how to get price reductions. Okay? Letter E. Letter E. Days on market is extending now and will continue to extend. As inventory increases and interest rates increase, what does that do to days on market? We talked about what it does to inventory. What does it do to days on market? Causes that to go up too, doesn't it? Causes that to go up too. Okay? And how does that compare with what you remember? Do some of you remember the different days on market being lower, being higher? Okay? How high will it go? That's anybody's guess. How long will it take? That's anybody's guess. You know, we don't know that. We just know what the trends are and what they're forecast to be. Okay? Letter F. We're seeing more expired listings. We're now seeing more expired listings. And this is going to continue to accelerate. Does anybody here use Vulcan 7 to give them leads? No? Okay, so there's a company called Vulcan 7. They do a great job, and they provide leads to people in terms of expired listings, for sale by owners, for rent by owners, pre-foreclosures. They'll provide you all of that information. Their owner, Ren Jones, he says that he is seeing an increase in expired listings throughout the country. Okay, now that increase is from like none to 5. Some of us remember when there was 50 in a day or 100 in a day. Okay, those days may be coming too at some point in the future, but we're not there yet. The fact is you're starting to see more expireds. Who here is not currently calling expired listings? Anybody? Okay, quite a few of you. I'm going to recommend that you start considering calling expired listings. That's low-hanging fruit. Those are people that are trying to sell their house. They want to move. They didn't get their house sold, sometimes because they were a greedy seller, but now they're coming to reality. Sometimes because they had a bad agent. Have any of you ever met, I mean, probably not in northern Indiana, all the bad agents are down south. But have any of you ever had the opportunity to meet a bad agent that just prices, how did they come up with that price? You know, well, you know, they're out there and they're looking for a great agent that's willing to tell them the truth because they want to move. And it's an easy script. Hi, my name's Ira with Century 21, and I noticed that your home came on our computer as an expired listing. And I was just calling to see, when do you plan on interviewing the right agent for the job of selling your home? Okay? And they're going to say, well, I wanted to be moved already. You wanted to be moved already? Well, good for you. Well, what do you think stopped your home from selling? Now, they're either going to say that they screwed up on the price or that the agent screwed up on the price. Who do you think they're going to blame? Even if it was them. Yeah, they're never going to blame themselves. Okay? Well, it's a good thing I'm calling then, because I can fix this for you. And we've got a whole script that will help you. Okay? We've got a whole script that'll help you. And this is part of the skills that we have to work on. Okay? Because skills have become so much more important. Okay? What are you doing right now to improve your skills when calling expired listings? If you don't know what I'm talking about, or if you're not doing anything differently, I'm going to make a recommendation to you. If you haven't used our script already, go to www.mikeferry.com. They're free. Download our scripts. They're all open-ended questions. They engage the other party. And they will help you know what to say and how to say it. Now, let me ask you a question. We've got a pro golfer, a former pro golfer in the room. Did you have a script? Did you teach your players, when you're teaching, did you teach them a script, a method of how to do something the same way every single time?
Yep.
Okay? Would it be any different in any other job, do you think?
Nope.
Nope. Okay? You know, how many golfers in the room? You ought to get to know him. It's, okay? Trade him real estate knowledge for golf lessons. Okay? But no, it's the same thing in every sport. It's the same thing in everything that we do in life. Okay? So pull out the script and take the time to learn it. Okay? Letter G. There are fewer offers per listing. We already talked about that you know, we've gone from 15, 20, 30 offers to a listing to maybe 5 or 6. But the fact is we're still getting a lot of competing offers. We're still getting a lot of competing offers. Homes are starting to sell in some places, in some instances, below full price. Are you seeing that at all? Okay. Now you're a manager, team leader. About what % of the time are you seeing in your office people selling things actually below list price?
That's a good question.
Pardon?
That's a good question.
Don't know the answer.
I don't know, that's-
But you're seeing it more often than you did before.
Yeah, I'm seeing it around just the market in general.
Okay. So, and that's going to continue to happen and start happening more often. We've got to counsel our sellers on that. Do you think some of our sellers are getting into the thinking that prices are still going like this and they're not mentally engaged to it being like this? Okay. That's going to take us educating them. Okay. Letter H. Less first-time home buyers, because of interest rates and prices. Because of interest rates and prices. Okay? In some cases, the first-time home buyers just being priced out of the market. They're just being priced out of the market. So let's take a $400,000 home. I want you to write this down. $400,000 home. And we have an FHA buyer. $400,000 home and we have an FHA buyer. How much do they have to put down? How much do they have to put down? 3.5%. 3.5%. That's the minimum down payment on an FHA. They have to have 3.5% of their own money. Okay? So we're only going to look at principal and interest. We're not going to talk about taxes. We're not going to talk about insurance because that's all based on where it is and everything else. But principal and interest. If you've got a $400,000 home and a 3.5% down, it's going to cost them $1,525 at 2.5% interest. 3.5% down, 2.5% interest, and that was a year ago, but it would have cost them $1,525. But now we're at about 5%, maybe 5.5%, but I did my math at 5. Okay, at 5%, that $1,525 went up to $2,072. It went up $500 in a year if the price stayed the same. But the price didn't stay the same. The price went up. At 6%, the same house is $2,314. It just went up another $250. Okay? And that's just principal and interest. That's just principal and interest. We're wiping the first-time home buyer off the map. Okay? There will still be some. There will still be some. But not quite as many. Does that make sense to everybody? Are you seeing that in the market? Is anybody home? Okay? And letter I. The COVID buyer pool is diminishing. Okay, the COVID buyer pool is diminishing because they've either bought or they decided not to. See, there were a lot of people that were just absolutely locked down. They were in their homes for so long, and they started working from home. Their offices were shut down, and they had to work from home. They spent a lot of time with their spouses. Did divorces go up? Okay.
As well as babies.
As well as babies. Babies went up and divorces went up. Okay? So they're stuck in this house, and it created a lot of things. First of all, you had a new pool of people that wanted new houses because they said, boy, this house is really too small, because they weren't used to that many people being there all day, every day. Okay? Even the kids were there all day because some of the schools were online. Okay? Their college-age kids were home because college was online. All of a sudden they had all these people in the house all day long. So it created a pool of buyers. Okay? But now things have broken loose and those buyers have bought. So now what's the follow-on on that? Try to buy furniture. Has anybody here tried to buy furniture lately?
Appliances.
How long do you have to wait?
Well, I had to stage 2 homes in the middle of COVID. Oh, you're 10 to 12 weeks just for an ottoman or a couch. It's awful.
10 to 12 weeks just for an ottoman or a couch.
Okay, and that's just anything. If you want furniture, there was no grab and carry out.
No, it's gone. What they have in the showroom is for show.
And they wouldn't even take my $100 bribe to say, I will pay you cash. I will bring you food. They wouldn't do it.
I'll give you $100 extra for that couch, and they wouldn't take it.
No.
No. So it's affected everything. It's affected everything. Okay? But that pool for houses is pretty much gone. Okay? Did this all make sense, what we just talked about in terms of what we're doing, what's happening in the market?
Yes.
Did I miss anything? Can anybody think of anything that we missed? No? Okay. So now let's look at the next step. Let's look at 6 words, and their effect on your production and income. 6 words and their effects on your production and income. Letter A, the strength of your mindset. Underline the word mindset. You're not taking any notes. Do you have a photographic memory?
I can't remember what I just ate for breakfast.
You can't remember what you ate for breakfast? I can't remember what I ate for breakfast either.
I just forgot what you said.
Except, but I'll tell you what, I'm gonna have one of those donuts during our break. Did you all know that today is National Donut Day? I did not know there was such a thing as National Donut Day, and I just learned that if you go to a Dunkin' Donuts and ask for a free donut today, they'll give it to you. Okay? So what you ought to do is figure out how many Dunkin' Donuts there are in a geographic area and stock up. Okay, save on your food bill because prices in the grocery stores are going up so high. Okay, so the strength of your mindset and its effect on your production and income. How positive is your thinking? How positive is your thinking?
I'm probably positive.
Are you what?
I'm probably positive.
You're what? You're polypositive. Oh, that's all right. Good for you. So what makes you polypositive?
That's what you put out, that's what you get back. It's all good.
Power of intention.
You are what you think about most of the time. You are what you think about most of the time. That's right. So good for you. So what do we do? Are there times when we get discouraged?
Yes.
Are there times we get, of course there is.
Yes.
And what do you do about it when you feel down and when you feel discouraged? What do you do about it?
Eat chocolate.
You cry and you eat chocolate.
Go drink.
What's that? Go drinking. That's the way to handle it. Hit the local bar.
Hour 30.
Okay? But what can we be doing to keep a positive outlook on life? What can we be doing?
Well, hang out with positive people.
Hang out with positive people. See, if you hang out with positive people, I'll tell you what. My mom, may she rest in peace, I made sure I never spent time around her. I mean, I'm serious. I loved her dearly. She once said to me more than once, Ira, remember, I'm the only mother you have. You've got to be nice to me. And I'd say, Mom, I don't have to be nice to you at all because you have to be nice to me because I'm the one that's going to pick your nursing home. Okay? But she was one of the most negative people I had ever met. I mean, if there was a glass half full, to her it was always half empty. So I didn't spend a lot of time. Okay? We've got to spend time with people that are positive and thinking positively. So let's take real estate agents. When the market starts slowing down, is that a bad thing or is that an opportunity? An opportunity. You know, during the days of 2008, 9, 10, 11, 12, a lot of the great agents had their best years ever. A lot of the great agents had their best years ever. Okay? And the reason they had their best years ever is because they knew people were still buying and selling houses and they weren't tied to the fact that prices might be lower. So it is what it is. I asked my dad once. My dad was in the stock business. They call them financial advisors today. They used to call them stockbrokers. So my dad was a stockbroker, and I said, Dad, you know, a lot of times we have people in real estate say, I'm not giving my house away, you know. If I can't get my price, I won't sell it. I said, did you ever find that in the stock brokerage business? And he said, only for people that wanted to go bankrupt. Okay? So why do we treat our stocks, our bonds, our mutual funds like an investment? And if they go up, they go up. And if they go down, we maybe sell them and, you know, stop the bleeding before they go down quicker. But our houses, we're emotionally tied to. You know, and we don't necessarily treat it like an investment. Okay? We've got to be around more positive people, more people that are thinking in a business-like fashion for those things that we have as investments. Okay? So what do you do to develop that strong mindset besides read more? How many books are you reading? So Mike recommends that we all do a lot more reading. And read books, read biographies about Michael Jordan, about Frank Thomas for White Sox fans, Billy Williams for Cubs fans, books about Jack Welch, the great chairman and CEO of General Electric.
Ed Millett.
Who?
Ed Millett.
Who's Ed Milet?
He's the
funny. He's like this big person that he does podcasts, and he just wrote a book about self-improvements.
Okay, a book about self-improvement?
His favorite is like, you're the average of the 10 people that you hang out with.
Ah, you're the average of the 10 people you hang out with. Interesting. I'll bet that would be a good book. Okay? Lee Iacocca, great leaders in business, great leaders in sports. It doesn't matter, but read books about people that, Warren Buffett, read about people that have done so well and how they've done it, because it can help motivate us to do a better job. Okay? The more you do, go to good places. Plan a great vacation for your family to think bigger, and do things that you haven't experienced before. So we've got the strength of our mindset. Letter B, the strength of your skills. Underline the word skills. Underline the word skills. When you're going on a presentation, do you have a scripted presentation? Who remembers their first listing presentation ever? How did it go?
They got to the point where they said, just give me the papers.
They got to the point, just give me the
Yeah,
papers.
right, you can stop your spiel, just let me sign.
Just let me sign. Put me out of my misery. Okay? Who else remembers their first listing? What about your first listing?
It was good.
It went well? How long ago was it?
Almost 2 years.
Almost 2 years ago?
Year and a half.
Good. Good. That's really great. How long did it take you?
20 minutes.
Perfect. Perfect. That's the way to do it. So I remember my first listing presentation. It was in 1997, and it was an expired listing, a small condo. I was brand new in the business. I had been in the business about a week, and it was an expired listing. And I went around the office asking if anybody could go with me, because I didn't have a clue what to do. And couldn't find anybody to go. So I said, well, okay, I'll go. And I went to the supply closet, and there were no computers back then. I mean, everything was hard copy. So I went to the supply closet and just took one of every form that I could find. I didn't know what forms I needed. And I filled up my briefcase with forms. And I went on the appointment, and after about an hour and a half, 2 hours, they were falling asleep. And I said, this is pretty boring, isn't it? And they said, yeah, it really is. That was good for my self-esteem. And I said, yeah, it is pretty boring. I said, would you just like me to get your house sold? They said, that would be nice. I said, well, okay, let's just go right to the paperwork then. And they said, okay. So I opened up my briefcase and I said, crap, I don't know what forms to use. So I start going through everything. I pull one out. I said, this says exclusive right to sell. This must be it. So I looked, and they said, okay, I got to put their names. What did they say their names were? And then I thought, expired listing. This is going to take a while to do this paperwork. Would you like me to save some time? They said, well, that'd be nice. I said, if you have your old paperwork that the last agent filled out, I can just copy a lot of that same information, and it'll make the time go a lot quicker. And they gave me the package. So I filled out the exclusive right to sell, had them sign it, and said, I'll bring the rest of the paperwork back tomorrow. It'll take an hour or two for me to get it filled out, but it'll only take 5 minutes for you to sign it. Would that be easier? We've got the important one signed already. And then the next day, my manager helped me fill it all out. But see, we've got to have the strength of skills of how to present. And clearly, I didn't have it. Okay? Clearly, you did if you were able to do a listing presentation and get it done in 20 minutes. Good for you. And that's what we teach. Our listing presentation takes between 5 and 25 minutes. And it's an easy one to learn. It's all scripted. Okay? And it doesn't sound scripted if we work on it. We've got to work on our skills. How much time are you spending now practicing? Is anybody spending time practicing during the day? Do you have time in your schedule where we practice? Okay? So one person, two people.
Just talking
Okay?
to yourself
And
in
who
your
are the two? The manager and the professional athlete. Okay? Because they know that yeah. because they know the importance. So there's a guy named Tony Smith. Tony's the vice president of MFO now, Mike Ferry organization. He was a Division I athlete. He played football for Montana State University. And he was 20 or 21 years old, and he was on break, and he was driving down through Apple Valley, California. Anybody ever heard of Apple Valley, California? In the middle of nowhere, small town. If you blink, you miss it. Well, he must have blinked because his car broke down. Okay? He didn't have any money. He was a college student. So he had to get a job in a restaurant washing dishes for a couple days in order to earn enough money to get his car fixed. Well, it's now been 35 years and he hasn't left Apple Valley. He never went back, okay? Never went back to school. But he was a football player who understood practice. And he got involved in real estate right away. He got involved in the Mike Ferry organization, said, I'm going to become a realtor. And he practiced his scripts and dialogues 2 hours a day, every single day for 2 straight years. If you practiced your scripts and dialogues and objection handlers for 2 hours a day, 7 days a week, for 2 straight years, do you think you would know what to say, how to say it, when to say it? Well, Tony's one of the best. And in the small town of Apple Valley, he was selling 150 homes a year by himself because he was the best skilled agent anywhere in the marketplace. Okay? Football players. Who likes to watch football on TV? Okay? Quite a few of you. Okay, so a football play, it's 3 hours on TV, but it's only a 60-minute game with 4 15-minute quarters. So we've got 60 minutes of time. And of that 60 minutes, your offense is on the field for about 25 minutes. Your defense is on the field for about 25 minutes. And your special teams are on the field for about 10 minutes. Is that fair? Okay? But if you're a starter and you're in every single play, you're still only on the field for 25 minutes, but you're only playing for about 5 or 6 minutes because it's a running clock. So they practice 40 hours a week so that they can be in a game that takes 3 hours to play, but is only 60 minutes of time, of which they're only playing for about 6 or 7 minutes. And that's if you're the starter playing every play. That's why they're so great. It's not they're so great because that's how they were born. They're that great because of how much time they spend practicing. Okay? You know, I happen to love playing golf. Do you know what the difference is between an amateur golfer and a professional golfer? At the end of my round of golf, I go to the bar for a beer. And that doesn't matter whether I've had a bad game or a good game, I go to the bar for a beer. The professional golfer, when he's done playing or she's done playing, they go to the driving range because of this one bad shot they had on the 6th hole with a 5-iron. Okay? So on the tournament last week, Jordan Spieth was talking about a shank he had on one of the holes, and the announcer was saying, Jordan Spieth is complaining about a shank. Jordan Spieth has never had a shank in his entire life. The shot he called a shank, we would call a good shot. Okay? But it's how much time they practice. It's how much time they spend on that. We've got to improve our skills. Who needs to spend more time working on their skills? Okay? Letter C, the quality of activities we're involved in. Activities is the word. The quality of activities you're involved in. We've got to be prospecting. Write that down. We've got to be prospecting. We've got to be doing lead follow-up. Lead follow-up. We've got to be calling our past clients, our centers of influence, expireds, for sale by owners, And when I say calling, or it's nice weather, knocking on doors, we've got to be prospecting. We've got to be looking for business. So we're prospecting, we're doing lead follow-up, we're role-playing or practicing, we're following a schedule, but the main things are prospect, lead follow-up, physically go on appointments, negotiate contracts, and practice. Those 5 things should be taking up 75 to 80% of your day. Prospecting, lead follow-up, physically going on appointments, negotiating contracts, and practicing. Because when you practice, you get better and you do more deals. We've got to be spending 75 to 80% of our time doing those activities. In reality, do we spend 75 to 80% of our time on those activities? No. So I'm coaching a guy named Ken, and we're trying to figure out what he's doing with his time. So I had him do a time motion study and say, write down everything he does on a half-hour basis. And on our next call, he says, Ira, I learned something very, very important. I said, what did you learn, Ken? He said, I learned that it takes me 22 minutes to pee. I said, it takes you 22 minutes to pee. I said, you work out of the office. I said, how long does it take you to walk from your desk to the bathroom? He says, 20 to 30 seconds. I said, okay. How long does it take you to stand at the urinal and do your thing? And he says, 30 seconds. I said, let's give you a minute. How long does it take you? I said, I hope that you're one of those guys that stops at the sink and washes your hands. He says, I do. I said, another 30 seconds? I said, okay. So now we're at 2 minutes. Okay? And 30 seconds to walk back to your office. That's 2.5 minutes. Let's call it 3. Where did the other 19 minutes go, Ken? Well, I had to walk back to the break room and get a cup of coffee, and there were people in the break room, and I had to talk to them, and then I walked back to my office, and there were other offices open, and I had to stop and talk to them. How many of you can relate to that story? Okay? So now you take that 19 minutes of wasted time, assume you go to the bathroom twice a day, that's 38 minutes a day. Assume that you work 240 days out of the year, you're losing over a month of productivity just in bathroom time. Okay? We've got to be more productive during our day. Okay? Do we have a role at a home inspection? I mean, what do we do at a home inspection if you go to a home inspection? You don't go? Okay. You do go? No? Good. Well, that's good. What do we do at a closing?
Small talk.
Sit there and look nice.
Twiddle your thumbs, wait to pick up a check. Okay? And a closing takes 2 hours. I know it only takes an hour, but it also takes 15, 20, 30 minutes driving each way. So you're tying up 2 hours. Okay? We've got to figure out a way to make our time more productive and to spend our time on the activities that grow our business and make us more productive and more profitable. Letter D, the actions you take. Underline the word actions. Here's the big one on that. Do what you say you're going to do. We give the buyers and sellers a sheet of all the things we do to get their home sold, and then we don't do any of them. Did anybody here ever major in marketing in college? By any chance we have a marketing major way back in the back. What are the 4 P's of marketing? Do you remember? Every business school teaches that. You remember? What did she say?
That would be a help. Something like
Price,
position,
price, place, promotion, and product. Right, that's it. That's what every school teaches marketing students, that marketing is price, place, product, and promotion. But that's marketing for the rest of the world. We have the 4 P's of real estate marketing, which most realtors operate by. Okay? Put up the sign, put it in the MLS, put up your feet, and pray. And isn't that about all most people do? And by the way, for the last few years, that worked. But would that have worked in 2008, 9, 10, 11, or 12? And it's not going to work in the future either. So we've got to know what we've got to do in order to get a home sold, because it's not going to happen automatically. You've got to have the skills, and you've got to take the right actions with those skills that you've learned. Okay? We've got to stay physically fit. It goes back to those 5 questions that those questions we asked about in the very beginning. We've got to be physically fit because it takes energy. It takes time. We might be going door to door. We might be, on the move, and you've got to look good to your clients. Okay? Are you the realtor? We're not talking about in class. Are you the realtor that goes to the appointment, the listing appointment, in shorts, flip-flops, a t-shirt that has some sort of writing on it, and your baseball hat on backwards? I hope not. But they're out there. Who has seen those realtors out there?
That's how the guy, I went to a for sale by owner and I was there and a guy pulled up, he was a discount broker, and my seller turned him around and sent him back in and said, "You're hired." And I went, "Yes."
He hired you based on how you looked.
He hired me based on how that guy was looking.
Oh, yeah, because he compared the two. Now, don't misunderstand. This is especially for the guys. How many of you have ever gotten a phone call that says, "Hi, I'm looking for a realtor, and I saw your picture on the internet and decided that I wanted you to be my realtor"? No, guys, I'm talking to the guys. Has anybody, I've never gotten that call in 25 years. I don't understand why either, because I look at myself in the mirror and I think I should be getting those calls every day, okay? But I don't, I've never gotten one, okay? But women, how many women have gotten that call? Yeah, a few of you, okay? So I had a lady on my team, her name was Mary Ann, and she's taking this guy out, his name is Doug. And she's taking Doug out, 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 and we're having a team meeting, and I said, "Mary Ann, you're never going to sell him a house." She says, "How do you know?" I said, "He's dating you. You're his date." I said, "When did you look at the last houses?" She said, "Well, last week." I said, "What day?" "Thursday." "What time?" She says, "Oh, it was about 4 to 8. I said, "What did you do in the middle?" She said, "We went out, got a bite to eat." I said, "Who paid for it?" She said, "Well, he did." "Yeah, he's dating you." So the next time he came, I had her set up all the showings, and I came down the stairs. And I said, "I have to apologize to you. Our team has treated you poorly." And I said, "Yeah, it's our fault, and I take responsibility as the team leader. Mary Ann has done a bad job. Her job was to help find you a house because that's why you came to us. And she failed in doing that. So from now on, I'm going to take you out." He bought a house that day because he didn't want to date me. Okay? We've got to look good, okay, because it sets the standard of what they expect. We've got to look professional. We've got to stay on schedule, and we've got to under-promise and over-deliver. Under-promise and over-deliver. How many have made the same mistake I've made with offers? We get a phone call, "I'm going to be bringing you an offer." And we immediately call the seller to say, "I have an offer coming in."
No.
Who's made that mistake before?
I'll do that once.
Yeah, just once.
I was just gonna say.
Just once. And then what happens?
Oh, no, it's not gonna happen.
Yeah, the offer doesn't come in.
Yeah,
Yeah, the offer doesn't come in.
That's exactly how that goes.
Yeah. So we've got to under-promise and over-deliver. So when you go on a listing appointment, we know that a lot of times there's competing offers. Don't tell the seller you're going to be bringing them competing offers unless you have competing offers already in your hand. Okay? Because you're setting up for an expectation that may not happen, especially in the changing market. Especially in the changing market. Okay? So we've got to know the actions that we take. Letter E. The amount of discipline you display daily. Underline the word discipline. The amount of discipline. We've got to get to work on time each day. We've got to get to work on time. Have a set schedule. Okay? And follow your schedule. Are you getting to work at 7? I'm using this as an example. Getting to work at 7, getting yourself ready, getting your coffee, getting your numbers ready, getting yourself ready to get at your desk by 7:30. 7:30 to 8, you're role-playing or practicing. From 8 to 11, you're prospecting. From 11 to 11:30, you're doing lead follow-up. Okay? From 11:30 to 12, you're checking voicemail, email, returning calls, going to lunch from 12 to 1, doing the rest of your admin work from 1 to 2, then going on appointments from 2 to 4. And if you're not on an appointment, go back to prospecting because you've got to start finding an appointment. If you don't have an appointment, you ought to be finding an appointment. Does anybody have a schedule that looks something like that? Oh, good God, no. See, when we were in school, we had science class, and you were doing an experiment, but you weren't done with it. When the bell rang, could you stay there and finish your experiment, or did you have to go to English class?
Go to English.
You had to go to English, okay? And then when you were done with English, the bell rang. Could you stay there if you wanted to, or did you have to go to music or whatever? See, they taught us for 12 straight years how to keep a strict schedule. And then we graduated and said, I'm done with this.
Throw it out the door.
I'm done with this. Okay? We've got to treat our business like a real business. Okay? Does anybody here have staff? Do you have anybody here have an assistant?
Mm-hmm.
Okay? Can they come in whenever they want, take off whenever they want, just give you a call and say, you know, I'm just not with it today. I'm kind of tired. I was up late last night. I'm not coming in. Would that work for you?
Yeah, so far.
That's his assistant.
What's that? Oh, you're the assistant? Would that work?
He's just the best. I was in Mexico last week, but he's just the best. But for the most part, I'm pretty good.
Okay. For the most part. Okay.
Well, she
So,
shows up every day, right?
what's that?
She shows up.
I don't know. We're not clear on that yet. We're not clear on that yet. Okay. So does your office have a receptionist that answers the phone?
Yes.
Okay. How happy are you as an agent when that person doesn't show up?
Not very.
They're devastated.
Yeah. So what happens when that happens?
Chaos.
Chaos. Now, it may be that phones just don't get answered. It may be that the manager tries to grab agents to sit there. Hey, will you come down and sit and answer the phones? You know, you got to do what you got to do, but that doesn't work. Okay. So you've got to set the example and treat your job like a real job. Set standards, maintain the standards. Okay? And letter F. The amount of consistency in your business life. Consistency. Underline the word consistency. Are you tracking your numbers? Do you know how many calls you're making each day and how many people are answering? Do you know? Do you plan your vacations? You know, like in a real job, you would have 2 to 3 weeks vacation a year. Are you planning your vacations and only taking your 2 to 3 days? Or are you saying, well, I've got my vacations planned, but I'm also going to go to this wedding and I'm going to take off for that ball game and they're having a golf outing. The Association of Realtors is having a golf outing I want to play in. Do you know, in 25 years, I've never played in an Association of Realtors golf outing. They have them every year. But see, here's my thought. Why do I want to play golf with all of my competition when I can play the same golf with potential customers? Okay? It just doesn't even make sense to me, you know? But yet we do those things, okay? We've got to treat our job like a real job, okay? So what questions do we have so far? We're going to take a break in just a few minutes. Okay, what questions about anything we've talked about? Now, see, this is just like yesterday. Now, I've been doing this. I'm not. I've been doing this for a long time, and either I have instantly become the best speaker in North America, okay, because everything is so clear and concise, or you guys are as brain dead as the people yesterday.
I got one for you.
Okay, shoot.
This is something I've heard a lot, and I've been around to see the old crash and what happened. And a lot of people are saying, and I've had several clients sell their house and move into their parents' basements, awaiting this crash. And we talked about it earlier, but when people talk about that to you, or if you hear that, how do you reply to that? Because it's hard for me to say, well, I hope you have 10 years to wait. And
Yeah.
I'm not upset with me, because that's kind of what I think is
Yeah.
the accurate answer.
Yeah, that's a great point, and that is happening in some cases, and I have heard that, and I've seen that, where people are selling their home because they want to take advantage of the high price now, and then they're going to wait for the crash to rebuy. And really all you can ask them is exactly that. How long would you like to wait? Okay? Because it's probably going to be a long time. And see what you can do now, hopefully today, just based on what we've talked about this morning and the economics of it, you'll be able to go through the different scenarios of what the average days on market is, what's going on with inventory. You can say, I just got done with a class that taught us exactly what you're talking about, and how we've got still a very low rate of inventory. And it's not going to slow down. If you're waiting for a crash, it's not in the foreseeable future. Nobody is forecasting it. Nobody. Economic experts are predicting higher interest rates, but they're also predicting the same low inventory that we have, or increasing slightly. Nobody's predicting a crash. Prices may go down a little, and we've talked about that, but as interest rates go up, it will cost them more. So now in my case, because I had the opportunity, notice I didn't call it a pleasure, I called it an opportunity, to have my mother-in-law live with us for 7 years. It was the worst 7 years of my life. Okay? Now, that's just how it was. The only thing worse than that would have been my mom living with us at the same time. But see, you've got to ask them, how well do you get along with your parents? Or how well do you get along with your in-laws? And even if they're really, really nice, do you want to live in their basement for the next 5, 6, 7 years? Then maybe take some of the numbers that we're talking about and price out what a potential home could cost at 6%, at 7%, at 8%, at 9%, and ask them, say, time really isn't your friend. And then if they want to do that and save money, have fun. Okay, great question though. Did that help you? Okay. Any other questions? Yes,
About
please.
first-time home buyers. There's a lot of the people I know are younger, and it's just everyone's doing it.
So when I bought my second home, and I'm using this as an example even though it wasn't the first, a mentor of mine said to me, buy the biggest house you can't afford. Buy the biggest house you can't afford. Because over time, we're not talking about this year, next year, or the year after, but over time, what absolutely positively always happens with housing, it goes up. Prices go up every single time. Okay? Interest rates are also starting to go up, so they're better off buying today than waiting until they're 8 or 9% or 7%. So they're better off doing it now. If it's not the perfect house, it's better than what they're renting. If it's not the perfect house, it's better than living at home. And at the same time, they're building equity. See, if they continue to rent, they're paying off the landlord's house.
Oh, let's not
If they-
even talk about rent increases every year.
And renting increases every year, where if they buy, their principal and interest will never change. Taxes and insurance could, but principal and interest will never change. Okay? And they'll be able to build equity and build wealth, which will make it easier for them to buy the second home. Does that make sense? Okay, please.
I'm gonna do this this year. Like you mentioned, 5 to 25 minutes for a presentation.
Right.
Are you going to talk about, address at all, like what you should take with, or are you, because I find a lot of agents are like, I have to take all of this stuff with and show everybody what I can do. But I think working on those scripts and having your presentation down with that client is better than look at my book of stuff.
Right.
Or, will you address that, or?
Yeah, okay, so let me repeat that because we've got some people that are virtual and they're streaming, so they'll know what you asked. I was asked that during this presentation, will I be saying what you should be bringing with you on the presentation? That we talked about a presentation should only take 5 to 25 minutes, and will I bring that up? That actually is not part of today's presentation. However, you asked the question, and right after our break, it will be the very, very first thing I address for you, because you're probably not the only one that has that question. Fair enough?
Fair enough.
Okay, so before we go on break, Jackie, can you help me with this?
Sure.
Sure.
Oh, there's two Jackies.
Oh,
I always
thanks.
volunteer.
So we've got coming up what's called the Superstar Retreat. And hopefully everybody that's watching this streaming is also being handed one of these as we speak. And what the Superstar, has anybody here ever been to a Mike Ferry event? Have you? Okay, so both of you, what event did you go to? Or have you gone to?
It was in Vegas. He was a speaker for Sector 21.
Okay, he was a
Mike
speaker at
Ferry
Century.
was a speaker, yeah.
Good, good. And what did you see?
I did the productivity school many, many years ago in Chicago.
Oh, I'll bet that was great.
It was phenomenal.
Yeah, so the productivity school that she's talking about is where you learn, it's 4 days long, and it's nothing for 4 straight days of learning the scripts and dialogues and the tonalities and where the upswings are and where the downswings are and what hand motions to use in order to be most effective. And great school. Okay, so what's going to happen in Las Vegas in July 18th, 19th, 20th, 21st, and 22nd, 5 days. It's 4 days, the 23rd, the 19th, 20th, 21st, and 22nd with Mike, and the first day is the what's called the bonus day, and that's with a lot of top producers giving presentations. Okay, Mike is going to take us through 23 different skill sets. 23 different skill sets. And then after each skill set, he's going to have 4 to 5 points about that particular skill set. And then he's going to have a top agent come on stage that is exceptionally strong in that particular skill and talk about how they implement it in their individual business. Okay? This is going to be one of the greatest retreats ever. There's already over 2,000 people signed up, and we're expecting to have about 4,000 in the room, or close to 4,000, over 3,000 certainly. Okay? Now, here's the thing on the Superstar Retreat. Who here thinks they need to improve their skills in order to do more business? Okay? If you didn't raise your hand, do you think your skills are strong enough now and that you're doing as much business as you want to do? Okay? You've got to ask yourself that question. Because if you need more skills, we've got to get the education to do them, and that's going to be the place. Now, you've each got one of these, and I want you to look up in the upper left-hand corner, and what does it say for event price? $450. I want you to take your pen and scratch through that. And you'll see why in a second. And I want you to put the number 295. I want you to put the word number 295. Century 21 National has made the decision that this retreat is going to be the #1 place for all Century 21 agents to be at in order to build their knowledge of the skills. The president of Century 21 will be there. All of the executives of Century 21 will be there. They're going to have a special cocktail party just for Century 21 agents. And of the 2,000 people already signed up, 600 of them are Century 21 agents. Century 21 has paid $50,000 in order to sponsor this event, and they are the sponsor of it. And again, if it's important enough that your local leadership asked me to come in, asked Mike to bring me in, and I was in Naperville with other Century 21 affiliated agents yesterday. And National Century 21 thinks it's the place everybody should be. And if you think you need skills, anybody here ever serve in the military? Okay, we've got one Navy veteran. If this was a different community, I'd say there was one squid. Okay, but we've got, when you were in the Navy, did you go through a lot of training?
Oh, yeah,
Okay, and why did they send you through the training?
so that it was muscle memory.
So it becomes muscle memory. Okay, when you were becoming a pro golfer, did you have to go through a lot of training?
Yep.
Okay, and did it make a difference?
Yep.
Yep. Okay. My time in the military, I spent 20 years in the Army, and training all the time. I've got one guy I coach right now. He's in the National Guard, and he's going to be spending the entire month of June in Fort Polk, Louisiana. And I said, Fort Polk, Louisiana? Who did you piss off? And their whole unit is going there for a joint exercise. He happens to be in the military intelligence field, and normally you go in the Guard or Reserve for 2 weeks training. They're sending them for 1 month training. I don't know. I'm not in the loop. My security clearance is long gone, but I wonder if it has something to do with preparing just in case they're needed in Eastern Europe. I don't know. Okay, but the fact is that they need training. We've needed training. The Navy needs training. Athletes need training. So do realtors. Century 21 thinks you should be there. So what I'd like you to do is during the break, fill this out. Make the decision to go. We've got 5 hotels with rooms blocked. 5 hotels with rooms blocked. And some of them we've got great rates. If you want to stay at Caesar's Palace, which is the nicest one, we've got a great rate for you. If you want to be a lot closer to the venue and never go outside and save a lot of money, we've got the link, and it's only $59 a night in Las Vegas. Okay? Don't miss this opportunity. Fill this out during your break, and then we're going to have a drawing afterwards, and a couple of you who filled out your forms are going to get to go for free because we're going to give away a couple, which is a really great thing. Okay? If you don't have your credit card handy, don't use that as your excuse. Leave your credit card information blank, okay? And somebody from the office will call you. And that even gives you a couple days to think about it because you haven't paid yet, so they'll call you and then that gives you time to check with your spouses and everything else. Okay? Let's take about a 12-minute break and be back at a quarter till.
Sounds good. Who is it? Jamie F. But who's Jamie F? Who's Jamie F. in Elkhart?
We're calling expired. How do you call it?
So that's a great question. So there's like Vulcan 7 that I mentioned. There's also Arch Information Systems. But if you go to our website, they're both there and their phone numbers, information and everything else. Like Ferry. And both of them are great. I've used both of them. And they'll provide you with expires, sale by owners, and both themselves. They're both on the website. they'll provide you with pre-work procedures, they'll provide you with or rent, sales items, they'll provide assistance, they'll provide all that. We've got one person so far that's given me theirs.
And there's one online that
online
is
coming in?
sending the form over.
They're sending it over?
Yes.
Okay, so we've got another one coming in. We've got one being filled out. What's holding someone back? Who here thinks they need to improve their skills? Who needs to improve their skills? Well, see, before when I asked the question, almost every hand went up. And now nobody, so all of a sudden, okay, time and family, that's fair.
Yeah.
Okay, so would your wife like you to earn more money so that you can do more for your family? Okay, so is it hurting your family by you going, or is it helping your family by you going?
Oh, we're good.
Helping, I guess.
Ah, what would hold you back?
I'm still thinking about
You're still thinking about it? Good, good.
Yeah, he's got a newborn.
So he's definitely got the, my wife won't let me.
Well, no, I'll tell you what.
Yeah, that turkey
I'll
goes
tell
to
you what.
Vegas for a weekend, I don't think so.
Well, not if she understands how it benefits the baby. You know, my son-in-law, I sometimes refer to him as my daughter's sperm donor. He's one of the laziest people I've ever met in my entire life. By the way, he's a great dad. He's a great dad, but he's lazy. So he was a car salesman for a long time, and it was Halloween, and my 15-year-old granddaughter was then 2 years old. And so he had an appointment to sell a car. And he turned down the appointment and gave it to somebody else because he had promised Emily that he would take her out trick-or-treating. And I said to her, being the kind, compassionate father-in-law that I am, "You did what?" I said, 18 years from now or 16 years from now, is Emily going to remember who paid her college education? Or is she going to remember who took her out to get candy when she was 2 years old? Okay? So sometimes we've got to think of what's best for our families in the long game and not just the short game. Today it's more fun to do this or that, but in the long run, what's really better for your family? This is the place for you to learn. This is the place, okay? All right, let's go back to our point number 3. Let's look at why inventory is so low. Let's look at why inventory is so low. And then ask ourselves, is it really so low? Or are things simply selling so fast? Or both? Okay, so let's look specifically at some of the causes. Letter A. Letter A. New construction cannot keep up with demand. New construction cannot keep up with demand. Well, this is kind of a couple-sided coin. Okay? First of all, it's a lot more expensive to build right now. Okay? Not only has the cost of lumber gone up, but windows. Has anybody tried to buy windows lately? Okay? I just tried to buy windows for a house that I have, a condo I have in Atlanta, and I've ordered them, but they're not going to be in until September. Windows, okay? And they're outrageously priced because forget the glass. Forget the glass. What's the frame of a window made of?
Vinyl.
Vinyl. I know there's some wood, but mainly it's vinyl. Vinyl is petroleum based. So as the cost of oil goes up, just like the cost of gasoline goes up, so does the cost of plastic. Okay? All the PVC in the house, all the plumbing, it's going up. Builders don't know what a house is going to cost. So you buy a house today. If you buy a new construction today and it's a custom built home, you work with the designers, you design your home, they price it out, but in the contract with most builders, not all builders, but most builders, there's some fine print that if their costs go up significantly, the cost of your house goes up. So there are people, maybe some of you have met them, maybe some of you have dealt with them, where they buy a house in good faith and it gets close to closing, and because of the price of the house going up and the price of interest going up because they couldn't lock in 6 months ago, they no longer qualify for the home that they contracted for. Has anybody seen or heard of that happening? Okay. I mean, isn't that scary? Okay. And
Especially when you were waiting for a year.
so you were waiting for a year, yeah, and all of a sudden, you could afford it a year ago, and you're making just as much now, but the house changed in price so much that you no longer can buy the house. Yes?
In that same scenario, it wouldn't appraise. Their costs went up and they were exceeding what the buyer could afford. They couldn't buy the house because they couldn't get it to appraise to get the loan.
Yeah, and then we have appraisal problems, yeah. And so even if they can afford it, they now don't have the extra money to bridge the gap of the appraisal.
Exactly.
Okay? It's a sad thing. Okay? So builders as a general rule, as a result, aren't building as much. Yes, you see some new construction going up, but do we see as much new construction going up as we did maybe 5 or 6 or 7 years ago? No, they're not building as many spec homes. You know, there's not a lot of new developments going in because they don't know the costs. They don't know the costs, okay? Now, let's multiply that, and this is something that most people don't think about. 15 to 20%. 15 to 20% of all listings are caused by new construction and people's desires to buy new. That's because new construction creates resales. See, I buy a new construction house, and then I have to list my resale house in order to buy the new construction house, okay? But when things have gone up in price, now, if I'm not buying the new construction house, it's not being built, that's affecting inventory because it's not being built, and I'm not selling my house to buy the new construction because the new construction isn't being built, so that decision just took 2 homes out of inventory. The new one and the resale one, okay? So we're just not generating those additional listings. And it's not just things that are petroleum-based like windows and PVC, but it's the lumber, it's the diesel fuel. Well, the diesel fuel is petroleum-based, but you know, all the parts of the house have to get first to the factories on truck, then to the work sites on truck, in between maybe to a distributor via truck, you know. So and the truckers, even if there's the money to do all that, there's a great shortage of truckers, so it's all adding to the cost. It's all adding to the cost, and we don't think about that. We don't think about the lack of transportation causing the price of a house to go up, but it does. Okay. Letter B, as to why inventory is so low. People are still cautious regarding COVID and the number of people they have in their homes. There's a lot of agents still doing listings on the phone or via Zoom. Have any of you ever done a listing presentation via Zoom or on the phone? Okay, a few of you. You know, it's a great way. For the rest of you, it's something you may want to consider because, you know, depending how far away the home is, it might be a lot more efficient. You know, there's some agents now that are actually expanding their market, and you say, well, I don't want to drive out that far. Neither do they. They do the appointments via Zoom. And then they have somebody go put a sign and lockbox out for them and maybe never even have to go in a house. Okay? It's a way for you to expand your marketplace and use technologies. Who would have thought? Who would have thought that things like Zoom would even exist? You know, when I was growing up, the only place you ever saw telephones with pictures on it was on the Jetsons. You know, some of you are too young to know what the Jetsons are. Okay. Letter C. We actually believe that working with buyers is easier than listing property. we actually believe that working with buyers is easier than listing property. Well, no, we do. We do. You know how I know we do? Because we spend all the time with buyers. If we didn't believe that, what we would do is instead of spending all that time with the buyers, we'd spend the same amount of time trying to get new listings. So take a look at your worst nightmare buyer. How much time did your worst nightmare buyer take? Well, you're a buyer's agent. How much time would you say you spent with your worst nightmare buyer?
Oh, one that I just spent like 50 hours with. And she
50 hours?
to the listing agent. Yeah, and then she jumped ship and went to the listing agent to put her offer in.
Well, okay, but that's a different issue. That means you probably didn't have a buyer's agency agreement with them. Because if you had a buyer's agency agreement with them, you would have had the opportunity to collect your full commission.
But they were my friend.
We're past tense, right?
Yeah.
We're past tense. Okay, so we've got 50 hours over there, 50 hours over here.
But I fire mine.
But you fire yours.
Yeah.
Okay, but you fire them after you've spent 20 or 30 or 40 hours.
Yeah.
You know, so if you add up all the time you're working with buyers, if you were to look for sellers in that same amount of time, how much ahead of the game would you be? You know, but that's one of the problems, okay? How much fun is it taking a buyer out anymore?
Oh, it's a blast.
It's a blast, yeah, okay? So how many have taken buyers out, written multiple offers on multiple properties and still not made a sale? Only a few of you? I don't believe that. I don't believe it's almost everybody. Okay? So some of you just aren't paying attention or aren't listening or don't want to answer. Okay? Okay? So it's hard work. Being a buyer's agent is hard work. It's really hard work. Okay? Being a listing agent takes skill. It's not as hard, but it takes more skill, which is why we need to learn the skills so that we can do it. And we can do it a lot easier. Letter D. Letter D. The greed of sellers. The greed of sellers. There's some greedy sellers out there. Now, good agents are turning down greedy sellers. Okay? Or we're turning down sellers because they lack motivation. If they lack, here's the kicker. Are there sometimes sellers that say, I'll sell my home if I can get my price, and even if I get my price, it's got to be contingent of my finding a new home?
Yep.
Why would you take that seller? First of all, they're not motivated, and secondly, once you're going to do all the work and have all the expense and get a contract on their house, and then if they can't find another one, it's all been for naught. Okay? We want to work. Did you have a question?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, how much of it could possibly be that the agent has put so much money into marketing that they feel like, you know, they walk away, they're taking a huge loss, so they just stick it out.
That happens a lot, that people just stick it out because they're already so invested. So we've got to do a better job finding out ahead of time, and we have a script for that. Okay? I have a plan for that. Why do I sound like Elizabeth Warren all of a sudden? Okay? So, but we have a script for that, and it's the pre-qualifying script. And in the pre-qualifying script, we ask 12 different open-ended questions that really lead us to the conclusion as to whether they are highly motivated or not, so that we make the decision whether we're going to take the listing or even go on the listing appointment before we have all that time and money invested. Because you're right. You're right. That is not a fun thing to spend all that time and spend all that money and then have nothing happen.
Yeah, because there's one, I know the agent. There's a listing in White Oak Estate. It's a development in Munster. That house has been on the market for like 800 something days now. In this market.
Yeah, yeah,
like
it's
1.2 million.
they're throwing good after bad. Yeah, please.
Well, when you have a difficult seller that when you're just on a listing appointment and they're saying that, they often change their tune as soon as they see a real offer for what they want in front of them. They go, oh, somebody is willing to pay that.
Yeah, that's right. And you're right, and that sometimes works. The worst thing that can happen is they get an offer at their price. It falls apart for whatever reason, And then you never are able to get them to reduce their price because they say, we got that price before, and you can't convince them they didn't get that price before. It wasn't a valid offer, which is why it fell apart to begin with.
Well, and another reason why you take a offer, even if they are crazy like that, you open house their house like crazy, get more clients, and then even if it doesn't sell, it's paid off.
Well, hopefully that happens, yeah. Yep, absolutely. Okay, so we actually believe working with buyers is easier. Letter D was the greed of agents, the greed of sellers, and we talked about that one. But previewing properties, this is all part of the greed of sellers. Are you previewing properties now? So if you're a new agent, again, raise your hand if you've been in the business under 1 year. Okay? I would recommend to you, Mike would recommend to you, that you have in your schedule, to preview homes each and every day. Okay? You should have between 1 and 2 hours a day that are set aside just to preview homes. Okay? What you're going to do when you preview homes is you're actually going to make appointments to go in them, and you're going to learn about the different areas. You're going to learn how to price homes. You're going to learn about construction. You're going to learn about different types of HVAC. You know, you should be able to look at the furnace and know whether it's a heat pump or if it's oil-based or if it's gas. You know, and you may know that now and you may not. But you'll learn that stuff by previewing homes, and you'll learn how to price homes because you'll see what different things are selling for in different areas. Now, everybody else and the new people, whenever you set a listing appointment, we would advise you to preview the top 2 or 3 active comparables. The top 2 or 3 active comparables. Because then, when you go into the actual listing presentation, I see heads nodding.
Heads are bobbing.
The heads are bobbing. When you go into an actual listing presentation, you're able to say, your home is better than this one because of A, B, and C. But theirs is better than yours because of X, Y, and Z. See? And it's going to make you so much more powerful because the seller sees you as they've been in that home. And they've been in that home. Wow, they've been everywhere. They know what they're talking about. Otherwise, you're in a trap when the seller tells you, well, my house is much better than theirs. I mean, just look at my landscaping. Do you know I put $10,000 into landscaping? And this carpet is like new. So I know it is. You know, you've got beautiful carpet. In fact, I can tell even when I walked in that everybody takes their shoes off and the carpet gets very little wear. I haven't seen gold shag looking this good in a long time. You know? But see, when you've been in the other houses, it makes you more powerful in making those, in differentiating those things. Okay? Letter E. Pre-COVID. Think pre-COVID for a second. 30 to 40% of all agents worked at least occasionally on getting a listing. Pre-COVID, 30 to 40% of all agents worked at least occasionally on getting a listing. Today, less than 5% of agents work on getting listings. Less than 5%. And that in and of itself creates a lack of inventory because we have only 5% of the people going out and trying to get listings and 95% of those in the business not going out and trying to get listings. Okay? They're not calling for sale by owners. They're not calling expireds. They're not calling their past clients and centers of influence. They're not knocking on doors in a farm area. You know? They're just not doing it. Okay? They're not doing the things that we have to do in order to build our business with listings. And it's frustrating. So why is that? Well, letter F. Letter F is the reason why. Teams with agents are building bigger and bigger teams, and the team members working with buyers, as we previously stated, are all working with buyers and spending less time going out and getting listings. Okay, so Who's been in the business over 20 years? So 20 years ago, how would you have defined a team? 20 years ago, not today, 20 years ago, how would you have defined a team? There weren't teams.
You were independent contractors and you worked your business.
And you worked your business. If it was a team, there may have been a husband and wife team, and they would say, get 2 for the price of 1, you know, or you had an assistant because you were doing 20 or 30 or 40 deals, and you had an assistant, and you called yourself a team. But there weren't teams. It was individual agents doing their jobs. Today, we've got teams with 15 agents on them, okay? The teams are doing huge business. You know, there's teams doing 4, 5, 6, even 700 deals a year. That would not have been heard of 20 years ago. You know, 20 years ago, a top producer in most offices was doing 25 or 30. If you were doing 25 or 30 deals, you were a great producer. If you were doing 50 deals, oh my God, you were in the stratosphere, okay? There were some doing 100 deals a year, but not very many, and not all companies had them. Today, the average person we coach, the average individual we coach is doing 52 deals a year, okay? I coach people that are doing 200 and 300 deals a year and are making, I coach 5 people that are gonna make over $1 million this year. Are you leaving? Oh, you're not back. Okay. So we're, you know, they're out there, but then there's teams that are just, you know, 15 on the team. And how are they doing their business? Well, they got 1 or 2 people that are going out and getting listings, and then they're spending $10,000 a month to places like Zillow and Realtor.com and other sources like that where they're buying leads. Now, the leads they buy, are they listing leads as a general rule?
No.
No, they're buyer leads. And they're not even strong buyer leads. They're weak buyer leads. Now, here's the funny thing. Here's the thing I just don't understand. Maybe some of you can explain this to me. There's agents that don't make any calls to their past clients or centers of influence. They won't call expireds. They won't call for sale by owners. They won't call a geographic farm. They won't call anybody. But when their team leader gives them 10 leads, they call every one of them, even though they're bad buyer leads. So they say, I don't like to get on the phones. They are getting on the phones, but they're not getting on the phones looking for sellers, okay? And that's affecting inventory. Have you all seen that?
Yes.
Okay. Letter G. This is almost a repeat of letter C. We will actually believe working with buyers is easier. After going through what we've already gone through, does anybody really believe that?
No.
Now, I know some people work with buyers, but is it because it's easier? No, it's not easier. Okay, letter H. There are too many off-market listings. Off-market listings. They could be pocket listings. They could be coming soon listings that are sold before they're submitted to the MLS. Okay, so now, remember, what we're talking about now is why inventory is so low. Okay, it's not a bad thing to take a pocket listing. It's not a bad thing to put a coming soon out. Those aren't bad. We're not indicating it's bad. But when it gets sold before it goes on the active market, it distorts the numbers. So then when we say inventory is here, they never got counted. That's not a bad thing. Who's the best agent to work with when you're a listing agent? Who's the best agent to work with?
Yourself.
Yourself. So good for you for selling those yourself. That doesn't alter the fact that, because they really were listings, but the system doesn't know it. So the numbers are sometimes distorted. And the more pocket listings we take, the more distorted. That's not a bad thing. I'm not saying don't do it. I would do it all day long. Mike would do it all day long. Just recognize that wasn't done so much in the past, so the numbers get distorted a little. Letter I. Agents rely on or believe that because of their marketing efforts, because of their social media postings and their branding and videos, that sellers will call them. So I was at an event similar to this, and in the back left corner of the room, there's a guy, and he raises his hand and he says, I disagree with you. I like social media, and I get most of my business from social media. I said, well, good for you. I mean, if you get most of your business from social media, keep doing it. Don't change that. But think of how you can grow your business other ways instead. But since you brought it up, what percent of your business is social media? 40% of my business is social media. I said, wow, 40%. Well, this is like, now it's like a dog with a bone. You know? And I said, just out of curiosity, because I'm kind of a numbers guy, I don't know what 40% means. How many homes did you sell last year? He said, well, not as many as I wanted. And I said, well, okay. How many is not as many as you wanted between 0 and 100? 10. Okay, so you did 4 homes by social media. See, the thing is, if you're using social media, remember that it's social media. It's not business media. How many people do you know go to Facebook to search for a 4-bedroom, 2.5-bath home in Lake Station? Nobody, because there's no way to do that. So if you want to put a picture of your seller on Facebook and say, we just sold their home, hey, that's good marketing for you. Good for you. It takes a couple minutes to put it on. Good for you. Okay? If you want to take a picture of your buyers holding the sold sign and say, look at our new home, hey, that's pretty cool. They share that with all their friends and they like that, and that takes a minute. But we're not spending a lot of time on social media. Okay? And I would submit if he spent a lot of time on social media and sold 4 homes, if he had sold 20 homes, he would have sent the same 4. If he would have sold 30 homes on social media, it would have been the same 4. If he would have sold 40 homes on social media, it would have been the same 4. So then all of a sudden, instead of it being 40% of his business, the same 4 would have been 10% of his business. See? Social media is not a way to grow a big business, okay? And then we've got shopping carts. Who here has ever been into a supermarket and seen the shopping carts with the realtor's picture on it?
Yeah.
Okay, so there's this guy in Pennsylvania who was in the same office I was in for many, many years. His name was Jim Wise. He used to advertise, be wise. Call Jim Wise. And I thought that was a pretty cool tagline. It was a pretty cool tagline. And he was on all the shopping carts in the Giant food market. And I said to him one day, I said, Jim, I can't believe that Giant lets you be on their shopping carts. He said, what are you talking about, Ira? And I said, well, think about it. He says, I pay them a lot of money. I said, not enough. And he said, what do you mean? I said, well, they see your fat face on the cart and they stop buying food. In yesterday's dead crowd, they laughed more than that. Okay? But now, some of you said you've seen those shopping carts. Let me ask you a question. Has anybody ever in your lifetime seen anybody in the supermarket say, Mabel, could you give me a pen and paper? I've got to write down the name of this realtor who's on our shopping cart. I've never seen it. Has anybody ever seen it? Or the billboards. Anybody ever seen a billboard with a realtor's picture on the billboard? When's the last time you saw anybody jam on their brakes so that they could write down the name of that person on the billboard? Now it makes sense. It makes sense for Century 21 to have a billboard if they want to have a billboard, because they're building institutional advertising, and they want people to remember Century 21, and they really don't care which office gets called or which agent gets called. They only care that the calls come in. But are we remembering which individual? And if we are, it means they have so many billboards that they're spending so many tens and hundreds of thousands of dollars. Or the bus benches, like Mike always says, bus benches. why do realtors go on bus benches? If they can't afford a car, how are they going to afford a house? You know? You know, or the cafe. Who's been to a diner or a cafe and they have paper placemats and there's ads all the way around the placemats? Anybody seen those? Do they have realtors sometimes on there?
Yep.
Is it ever a top producer, or is it all people in your marketplace who you've never heard of?
Ding,
What's that?
ding.
Yeah. You know, there's a, what's that?
In our market, it's top producers.
Okay, but that's very rare. It's very rare. Because it just, who buys a house based on whose face is on a placemat? Okay? So, you know, so don't spend so much time on the social media and your branding. You know, what you're trying to do is build your business in a logical fashion, okay? And your database is going to be key on that. We're going to get to that soon, okay? We rely on purchase leads too much, and 95% of them are buyers. This is letter J. Do we really need more buyers in this market? See, there's already a shortage of inventory. More buyers, same amount of listings, just makes it harder to sell what you already have and very expensive, okay? Letter K, our databases are too small to effectively take 12 to 15 plus listings per year. I want you to put a star next to that one. Our databases are too small to effectively take 12 to 15 listings per year. See, has everybody here, or primarily everybody here, lived in the area over 10 years? Okay. Is there anybody that's lived here less than 10 years? 2 people. Okay, how long have you lived here?
Since 2019.
2019. So in the geographic area, where did you live before that?
Illinois.
Still in the Chicago area?
Yeah.
Are you gonna be licensed in Illinois and Indiana, or just Indiana?
Just
Okay. And how long have you lived here?
About the 8-9 year mark right
But where did you live before?
now. Chicago.
Okay. And are you licensed in Illinois and just Indiana? But still, you've been here 8 or 9 years. Okay. So every one of you should already have over 500 people on your database, or if you don't, have the goal of having 500 on your database within the next 18 months. Within the next 18 months. Okay? Now, what constitutes a database? Your past clients are part of your database because they either bought or sold a home from you. And your centers of influence. Those are anybody you know. Anybody you know. Anybody you know. Did I add anything to that, or was it anybody you know? I didn't say, but they're not my best friends, or, well, I don't know them that well.
How about other realtors?
Anybody you know except other realtors. Okay? Anybody you know except other realtors. Okay? But if you go to the same restaurant periodically, that waitress lives somewhere, and you see her all the time if you're going to the same restaurant on a semi-regular basis. Your doctor, your dentist, the receptionist, the hygienist, the nurse. These are all people you see. When you take your suits or dresses into the dry cleaners, you go to the same dry cleaner all the time, and it's generally the same people working the counter. Get their information. All of your neighbors. If you've got kids, your kids' friends' parents. You don't let your 4-year-old or 5-year-old go to somebody's house all by themselves without you knowing where they're going or without you taking them. So their parents should be on the list. If they're older, all their school teachers. They have parent-teacher conferences. They have open houses. You're good parents. You're going to those things. You know, everybody you know, they live somewhere. See, because when you raise your database, we believe that if you work it properly, you're going to get a 10% return. So if you've got 500 people on your database, that's 50 deals a year all by itself. 50 deals a year. For how many people would 50 deals a year be more than they're doing now? Okay? Most of you. Okay? Most of you. Okay? Please.
You know, David said, what about realtors? And you said no.
Uh,
But
for the 2 new ones that are here that aren't going to be licensed in Illinois, you need those.
Well, we're gonna
realtors
talk about that
on
separately.
your database.
Well, that's a
Okay.
different database.
All right,
That's
you
a
didn't
different
talk about-
database.
okay.
We'll get there. But thank you, you're right, Jackie, but that's a
Yeah.
different database. We're talking about your regular sales database, we're not talking about a referral base, okay? Because we're gonna have you on a separate database for realtors
Okay.
that are not in your marketplace.
All right.
Okay, so you have the 10% rule. So let's take a look at something. If the average sales price is 300,000, is that fair in this area?
That's high.
It's that high?
That's high,
It's a
right?
little,
300?
it's not bad.
Not bad.
Well, let's say,
Probably above average.
okay, let's say 300. Okay, so if you have $300,000 at 2.5%, I'm taking a 2.5% listing instead of a 3. That's about $7,500 gross commission dollars. Now, I understand with your splits and everything. So let's say you're making $5,000. Well, if you have 500 people on your database, and that's 50 people, that's $250,000 just in database income. Just in database income. So how do you do that? Well, first of all, we've got to call them all once a quarter. We've got to call them all once a quarter for business purposes. Now, I had a guy call me, it was a few years ago, that I coached, and I remember exactly where I was standing in the living room, and he calls me and says, Ira, I think I'm going to commit suicide. And it was a Sunday, and I said, please don't do that. I don't want an opening in my coaching schedule. That should have brought laughter. And he said, no, I'm serious. And I said, I'm serious too. I said, so what happened? He said, I found out my aunt sold her house and bought a house from someone else. I said, you're kidding me. I said, she wouldn't be my aunt anymore. And he said, well, that's not the half of it. He said, I play golf with the same group every single Saturday for the past 10 years. And when I got to the tee yesterday, Bob was showing everybody pictures of his new house. And I said, well, I see a trend here. I said, are they on your database? And he said, well, no, but they know I'm in. I said, don't tell me what they know. If they're not on your database, you're not calling them. See, and let's talk about your aunt. She probably loves you dearly as her loving nephew. And she sees you at family events, and she thinks of you at Christmas, but you're not calling her 4 times a year, just 4 times a year, saying, hey, Aunt Molly, this is your favorite nephew. This is a business call. Do you have a couple minutes for me? And talk to her about real estate. You're not going to do it at every family event. If you do that, they're going to quit asking you to the family events. You're not going to talk to your buddy about real estate every day on the golf course. On the golf course, every Saturday, you're talking about hitting it long and straight. And if you're betting on the hole, you're hoping he misses the putt. Okay? But 4 times a year, you could call them on the phone and make it a business call. See? And then you mail to them 4 times a year. You mail to them 4 times a year. Hard copy mailing, not email. Email would be extra if you want to do that, but we know that only about 3% of emails ever get opened. So you've got to mail hard copy, okay? And if you do that, they're going to remember you when it's time to buy or sell their house. If you really want to get wealthy, get 1,000 on your database. If you really want to be wealthy, get 1,000 on your. So how do you do that? Okay? Who's the youngest person in the room? How old are you? 20. Perfect. Start with your high school yearbook. How many graduated in your high school class?
More than 500.
More than 500. And of that 500, realistically, how many of them did you know? I didn't ask how many you're friends with. I didn't ask how many of you went to the football games with. I just asked how many you know. Oh, I bet you knew more than 100. You were in class with more than 150 of them over a 4-year period. You know, you probably knew at least a third, maybe half of them at some level. Okay? Add every one of them. Now, is it possible somebody says, take me off your list?
Mm-hmm.
Sure. Take them off the list. But it's not going to be the masses that say that. Okay? If you're old like me, if you went to high school in this area, start with your high school yearbook. okay? I could go back to my high school yearbook in Copley, Ohio, and still probably know 50 or 60 people just from that yearbook that still live in that geographic area, okay? We've got to build our database. We've got to build our database. Okay, so letter L. Most agents simply don't prospect. Most agents simply don't prospect because they don't know what to say and they don't know what to do. We just don't talk to enough people. We don't have the skills. If we knew what to say and what to do, we would make the calls. Okay? So we have a former professional golfer here, but why were you a golfer? Why weren't you a football player?
Well, my knees.
Okay, but why weren't you a football player professional?
I played semi-pro.
Did you play some? Okay, so let me. Why weren't you a tennis? Why weren't you a tennis player?
Because I didn't practice at it.
And you didn't know how to. You weren't a tennis player. You didn't play. You know. Are you a professional athlete?
No, but I coach.
Oh, and now that's kind of scary. You. What do you coach? You
I
coach
coach
gymnastics.
gymnastics,
Were you a
yes.
gymnast?
Yes, I was.
Okay. Well, okay. So, but why were you a gymnast and not a golfer? Why don't you go out and play golf today? It's beautiful out there. It's a nice day. It's sunny. Why don't you just say, I am not going to do real estate today. I'm going to go play golf.
Because I don't know how.
Because you don't know how. Okay? We don't have the skills. But we need to work on the skills. We need to work. If we think we don't need to work on the skills, we're constantly going to be in a position where we don't know what to say, we don't know what to do, and it's going to stop us from talking to enough people.
Here.
Okay? So who should we call? We've got to call our past clients and centers of influence. Once again, we call them every quarter, and we mail to them every quarter. Oh, by the way, there are some few that we should be calling every month. If it's somebody that's one of your cheerleaders, do some of you have somebody that just is always referring business to you? Okay? They should be called once a month. They should be called once a month. Are there some people on your database that are, does anybody have a religious leader, whether it's a priest, a minister, a rabbi, an imam, anybody on their database? Does anybody, does nobody here know any religious leaders? You never go to church, you never go to synagogue. This is the most unreligious group I have ever seen in my entire life.
It's the Regis squad.
What's that? What's that?
I've gotten several referrals from my pastor.
Sure.
And I helped him buy a church.
Yeah. So if you know any, it doesn't matter whether they're yours or not, if you know any religious leaders, they should be getting a call every month because they know who's moving.
Right.
They know who's moving. Okay? Does anybody here not do their own taxes and instead go to a CPA?
Yep.
You should be calling them once a month because the CPA, a lot of times people consult with their CPA about the advantages of home ownership and tax advantages. Does anybody here have a financial advisor? Okay, if you do, you should be calling them once a month. They know who are moving because they're a lot of times taking money out to buy a new home or putting money in after they sold a home. They know who's doing things, and you should be calling them once a month. Because see, these select groups, by virtue of their professions, know what's going on in that field. So there's some that you should be calling every month, everybody else every quarter. Okay? We've got to call the expired listings. We've got to call the for sale by owners. Those are the low-hanging fruit we already talked about. We've got to call the pre-foreclosures. We talked about that before, how you can be putting money in their pocket. By the way, what a great way to build your wealth too. So you go up to the pre-foreclosure, maybe not all of them, but depending where it is and what price range, and you say, I've got 2 different ways I can help you. They say, what are the 2 different ways? Well, let's just set a scenario that their house is worth $250,000, okay? But they only owe $100,000 on it. They only owe $100,000 on it. And you could go up to them and say, if you want me to buy your house, I would buy it just like it is, and I would pay you $150,000. I'll close on it in 2 weeks, and you'll have $50,000 cash in your pocket. Or if you'd like more money than that, I can list your house, and I can put it out on the active market, and we can get between $200,000 and $250,000 for it, and you'll put between $100,000 and $150,000 in your pocket. Do you know some people will take option 2 because they want the more money? Do you know that some people will take option 1 because they just want to get it done and they just want to get out? Okay? And there are agents all over North America that are building their own rental or inventory or flipping homes. You know, you buy it for $150 and then sell it for $250. Okay? And you even tell them, you're honest with them. Hey, I'll buy it for $150, but then I'm going to sell it for $250, and I'm going to put a little bit of money in, and I'm taking the risk. Well, some people will just take the lower amount. Do you have a place here called, there's all kinds of different names, but We Buy Ugly Houses and all? What do you think they're doing? What do you think they're doing? They're buying the house for pennies on the dollar. People are selling them to them, and then they're flipping them and making money on it. You could do the same thing. Okay? Probates and estates. We should be calling probates and estates. You know, they're selling those houses. You got to be real patient with them. You know, sometimes it'll take 2 years for them to sell because it's an emotional thing. They grew up in the house. You know, they've got to go through all the stuff one piece of paper at a time. You know, they're not going to just get a dumpster and start throwing stuff out. But other times they will get the dumpster and just start throwing stuff out because they want their money fast. You know, both things are going to happen. The fact is that there's a lot of money to be had. And then Mike teaches us that we should be calling around a just listed or around a just sold. I like the way I really said around today. They didn't get that yesterday. So why would we call just a just sold house? No, don't call it a just sold house. Call the houses around it, because somebody just sold their house. Hi, my name's Ira with Century 21, and I just sold a home in your area at 123 Maple Street. It's a nice 3-bedroom, 2.5-bath home, and it's sold for $250,000. And we know that when one home sells, usually 2 more sell right away. So I was wondering, when do you plan on moving? Okay, you will get listings that way, because people say, really? Bob and Mary got that much for their house? Well, if my house is worth that much, yeah, I'll sell it. Okay? Do any of these things, A through L, do any of these things apply to what's going on in the market in your area? They do? Okay, good. Now, before I go on to number 4, I said I was going to cover something right after break, and I didn't cover it right after break, but I didn't forget. Okay? So I was asked what we bring with us on a listing presentation. So let's start off with what we teach in the Mike Ferry sales system is that the listing process is a 5-step process. Once you've set your appointment, then starts the 5-step process. Step number 1 is we pre-qualify. We pre-qualify the appointment before we go on it. We're asking them to describe their home. We're asking them how much they owe on the property. We're asking them we're asking them how much they want for the home. We're asking them what price they won't go below. We're trying to figure out as much as we can. We're asking them, are you interviewing any other agents? And if you are, who else are you talking to? Okay? We're trying to find out as much as we can in order to draw out what objections we're going to have when we meet with them, okay, and what their motivation is to sell. Okay, so we're doing all of that as part of step 1, which is pre-qualifying the listing presentation. Step 2, after we've pre-qualified them, we do the CMA and we send them a pre-listing packet. We send them a pre-listing packet. And in the pre-listing packet is the CMA. Okay? There's a cost sheet so they know what it's going to cost them to sell. There's all the disclosures that are required in your community. There's references, kind of like a job interview, you know? When you do a resume, you send references. So we've got the references there, okay? And we've got our plan of action, what we do to get a home sold. All of that is sent to them ahead of time for them to review. Oh, by the way, in the pre-qualifying, about the last question we ask them, we tell them, we're going to be sending out a package of information. Will they take a few minutes to review that before we come out? They always say yes. They don't always look at it, but they always say they will. Okay? So step number 2 then was doing the CMA and sending out the packet. Step number 3, we're calling to confirm. We're calling to confirm a number of things. First of all, we're calling to confirm that they got the packet that we sent them. We're calling to confirm that they read the packet and asking them if they have any questions. We're calling to confirm that all decision makers will be present. Okay? Isn't that important? You know, for all of them to be there. Otherwise, what are the chances of getting the listing? If you get there and you present, and, well, let me talk to my wife. Well, in the meantime, their wife wasn't there and you didn't get to talk to her, and she's talking to other people. You've got to make sure all people are present. Okay? Step number 4, show up 15 minutes early. Show up 15 minutes early. And step number 5, use the scripts verbatim. Use the scripts verbatim. Now that's the process, but then the real question was, what do we bring with us? You're gonna go there looking sharp, be dressed for success. Be dressed for success, okay? Just like the example that we had earlier, that somebody was dressed like a bum and she got the listing because she came dressed professionally. We're professionals and we have to look professional. Make sure your car is clean. You don't have to have a Lexus, you don't have to have a BMW or a Mercedes, but your car needs to look presentable because they see it. They see it when you drive in, okay? And then bring a copy of the same packet that you sent them. Bring a copy of the same packet that you sent them. I would also bring additional comparables, okay? Let's say they have a house that's sold in their neighborhood. They're gonna ask, what about the house down the street? You may not have used that as a comp because it wasn't a comp. It was a lot bigger or a lot smaller, but they're going to ask about it. So bring the information so that you can say, you know, I didn't use that as a comparable, but I have it right here. It's sold for $490, so you know, they're interested because they know it's sold for more already. You're not giving them any new information. But the reason I didn't use it is because it's 700 square feet larger than yours and it's 15 years newer. So it's really not a comparable. It's sold for a lot more than yours, but you know, but actually, you know, we're getting more per square foot for yours than they got for theirs. You know, be able to point out the positives to, but other than that, you don't need to bring anything fancy. You know, a lot of companies provide you packets that are about this thick, you know, and those are I love me packets, you know, whether it's just about the company or whether it's just about you and it's got a big photo of you and your dog on every page, you know, that's not what they're hiring, okay? And then if you just use the script and stick with it, the presentation will only take between 5 and 25 minutes. You know, we start off actually with a 1-minute presentation that starts off, you know, hi, and thank you so much for having me out. I'm excited about getting your house on the market and getting it sold. Let me ask you, let me ask you a few questions. Number 1, do you absolutely have to sell your home? They said, well, yes, we do. Well, great. Would you, are you going to price it to sell, or do you want it to stay on the market for a long period of time? They'll say, no, we're going to price it to sell. We don't want to give it away, but we want to price it to sell. So, you know, I've never given away one yet, and I'm not going to start with yours. In fact, would you like me to handle the sale for you? And you know, a good percentage of the time, they've already looked at your packet. They've already looked at the CMA. They've already looked at your comps. They've already looked at your marketing plan. They're going to say, yeah, we'd love to have you do it. Great, well, let's sit down and sign the contract. That's the 1-minute presentation. And you'll be surprised how many times that works. Okay? But no, wait, you can't sign yet. I have a presentation to go through. And we talk ourselves out of the business. Okay? But that's all you have to bring. You don't have to bring your computer and show them pretty pictures of everything. That's just noise. Does that answer your question? Does that help?
Yes.
Okay. Does that make sense to everybody?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right, so now let's go to number 4. Major point number 4. What we're going to do here is look at a solution to the inventory problem. See, we've got to learn the skills involved in the Mike Ferry sales system. We've got to learn the skills in the Mike Ferry sales system. And I believe, that every agent in this room can take a minimum of 1 listing a week. 1 listing a week. Okay? So, do you think you can take 1 listing a week, Terrence?
If I were to devote myself to this full time, yes.
Okay, good. I think you could too. Okay, could you do a listing a week?
Sure.
Could-
Yeah.
Yeah. By the way, how many people are in your gymnastics class? The one you teach, the one you coach?
A lot, and I already gave a business card to every girl to take home the other day.
Okay, but now let's carry it further. Do you have a list of all of their names?
Yes.
Okay. Do you have a list of all their parents' names because they signed them up?
Yes.
Do you know all their addresses?
I do, and their phone numbers.
They're automatic. How many are there? How many is a lot?
Like 100 girls?
That's 100 more on your database. You don't have to ask them, do you want to be on my database? Just put them on your database and start calling them 1 time a quarter for business. You talk to them all the time and see them.
Yep.
You've sent them your
3 times a
card.
week.
They know you're in real estate. Okay? So all that you have to do is once a quarter, send them a mailing. Once a quarter, give them a call. If one of them is a priest or a rabbi or a CPA or a financial advisor, start calling them once a month.
Yep.
You know? And if they say, quit calling me, just say, well, good, take your daughter off my team. I'm joking, don't do that. Okay? But they
Might have
won't.
to.
But they won't because they'll like you, you know?
Yeah. If they trust me with their kids, they have to trust me selling their house.
That's right. So that's 100 more people.
Yep.
Okay? So every one of you can take a listing a week. Now, the manager in the room, the team leader in the room, how excited will you be when everybody in your office starts taking a listing a week?
Me or Chloe?
Me? Well, are you both team leaders?
Both, yes.
Oh, you're both team leaders. So which one will be happier?
I think we both. She's the regional for the state.
Oh, she's the regional for the state. See, how excited would you be if everybody, how many are in your region?
300. We've got 300 in Indiana.
300 in Indiana? Yeah, wouldn't that be exciting? Okay? So what do you have to do that? Letter A, because this is easy when you break it down. Letter A, find at least 1 or 2 motivated prospects, qualified prospects per week. We know they're there. The question is, are you looking for them? But if you look for them, if you spend 75 to 80% of your time doing the 5 income producing activities, prospecting, lead follow-up, going on appointments, negotiating contracts, and practicing, you're going to find them. Okay? Letter B, follow up aggressively with those you find. You can't overcall them. It's impossible. It's impossible to overcall them. Now, is it possible that somebody would say, you call too often, you bother me, I would never list with you, don't ever call me again? Is that possible?
Yeah.
Of course it is. So what? They weren't listing with you before that either. So calling them too often wasn't the reason they didn't list. Is it possible that they say, you're an irritant. Give me your name and your manager's name. I want to call your manager. Is that possible?
Oh, yeah.
Of course it is. Give them the manager's name. See, now, if you're getting a complaint every single day or every single week, your manager's probably going to talk to you about your telephone techniques. But if you only get a call like that once in a blue moon from one of your top producers because they're making those calls, are you even going to tell them that call came in?
Depends, I might laugh at him.
What's that?
I said if it's him, I might laugh at him about it.
Yeah. See, it's just, they're going to be thrilled. So there's a guy in Michigan. His name is Dave Abdallah. Dave has been for many, many years the #1 agent in the entire state of Michigan. Okay? Dave's a good friend of mine, and we joke around. He's from Lebanon. Unless you listen carefully, he hardly speaks English. Okay? But he's on the phone 4 or 5 hours a day, and he says, I'm a hunter. I'm a hunter. I hunt for listings. I keep calling people. I hunt. That's what I do. I hunt. And that's what he does. And he has a sign outside his desk that says, do not disturb, prospecting in session. Now, do you think people in his office pay attention to that sign? No. They knock on his door. They walk in. Can I ask a question? And he opens up his wallet. And he takes out a $20 bill. And he rips it in half and throws it on the ground and says, hey, you just cost me $20 by bothering me when the sign said don't bother. I'm prospecting. Get out of here. So a lot of people in his office don't like him. #1 agent in Michigan. Do you think his manager likes him? You know, that could be every one of you. Letter C. Call your database, call your database, call your database, call your database. We've talked about that. Letter D. Start or keep building your database. We've talked about that. Letter E, something new. Since everyone's talking about real estate today, I mean, when you see somebody and they find out you're a realtor, what's the first thing they say?
How's the market?
How's the market? They ask you that all the time. Okay? Do a minimum of 10 just listed or just sold calls per day. Do a minimum of 10 just listed or just sold calls per day. Because the people in the neighborhood want to know what's going on in their neighborhood, and you're going to be able to pick up a business that way. Now, let's say you're brand new and you don't have any listings or you haven't made any sales. How are you going to make a just listed or just sold call? Any ideas?
All new listings.
Yeah, call somebody else's. Okay? A house was sold. So if it was a different house from your company, instead of saying I just sold, our company just sold. If it's a different company, let's say it was a Remax listing and you like that neighborhood and they sold it, call and say a listing was just sold in your area. You're not saying I sold it. You're not saying your company sold it. You're saying a listing was just sold in your area. It was at 123 Maple Street. Nice 3-bedroom, 2.5 bath home, sold for $350. Okay. It's the same script. What could happen, doesn't happen very often at all, but what could happen is they say, well, did you sell that house? And as long as you don't get thrown and you're prepared for the answer, no, I didn't, but I'm going to sell the next one. So when do you plan on moving? You know, it's not going to throw you at all because you've practiced the response. You've practiced the response. Letter F, pre-qualify every seller in depth. Pre-qualify every seller in depth. Letter G, work on strengthening your prospecting scripts, your lead follow-up scripts, your pre-qualifying scripts, and your listing presentation scripts. That starts with filling out this stupid piece of paper so that you can work on what you have to work on and learn from the best in July. Some of you are going to have reasons why you can't go. I get it. You're going to, you know, she's going to be in Mexico, okay? You know, that's a long ways away, okay? And it's tough. But that's not the masses. Most of you could be there, and it's the smartest thing that you can ever do for your business. That's where we're going to work on the scripts and the skills. Letter H, answer their questions and objections. Answer their questions and objections. Oh, letter I, put a star next to this one. Put a star next to this one. Because it's the simplest one, yet it's the one that so many people forget to do. Ask them to sign the contract. Ask them to sign the contract. Too often, we go on appointments and we make an assumption that they're not ready, and we don't ask them to sign the contract. Or they say, well, I'm not going to list my house until the end of July, but why don't we touch base again there? Great, we can do that. But we're both here now. Why don't we do this? Why don't we just, are you as convinced as I am that I can sell your home? Are you as convinced as I am that I can sell your home?
Yep.
Yeah, great. So why don't we just sign the contract now? Let me date it for July, and that gives me the power to start some of the pre-work and get some of the marketing stuff done. I'll even tell some of our buyers that are out there, in fact, if I have a buyer, if our office has a buyer that is looking now, but is willing to wait, would you object to us showing it to them? Because if it's the right house for them, we perhaps could get it sold before July, but it won't impact on your desire to not move until August anyway. Would that be okay? Well, that'll be fine. See, then you're gonna have one of those pocket listings, okay? Ask them to sign the contract. Letter J, negotiate for them and with them. For them and with them. And letter K, stop celebrating and start at the top of each morning as though you have nothing. Pretend that you have no listings, no active listings, no pendings, no buyers. Now, I know some of you in the room are saying, I don't have to dream that at all. That's reality, okay? But we don't want you to get complacent, you know? So start each day at 0, okay? Any questions on major point, please?
I get a little nervous on that contract. I mean, I'll have them sign maybe a couple weeks in advance, but it still says contract begins.
Okay.
In that meanwhile, in those 2 weeks, they could sell it to some friend.
Well, or you could sign it without a start date, sign it effective immediately, but write in the contract that it's not going to go on the MLS until a certain date, a month out, 2 weeks out, whatever the case may be, and explain to them. Say, this gives me the power to some hot pocket listings or anything else, or your pocket buyers, you know, that will show ahead of time. But the masses, we're not going to put it on the MLS for the masses for 30 days because I know you want to paint or do that, or you're going on vacation or whatever the case may be. But our listing actually starts now, even though we won't start marketing. That will protect you against that happening.
I think in our market, we have to do an MLS submission waiver, but we can't, as long as we have that waiver here. Yes.
Okay, so there's extra paperwork that's necessary, but it's perfectly legal to do.
There's workarounds.
There's a workaround. And it's a smart thing to do, because you're right. Because otherwise, you're gonna get the phone call that they sold it to a neighbor, or I know I promised you this listing, but this other agent came and they smooth talked me into selling it, and you get mad at them, but really, somebody else got them to sign it. Why didn't you? You know, it's to your advantage. Does that make sense? Okay. All right, and number five, as we come to a close. What often keeps agents from taking listings on a regular basis? What often keeps agents from taking listings on a regular basis? Letter A, they constantly doubt themselves and their abilities. A lot of times we doubt ourselves, you know? By the way, this happens in so many things. It's not just real estate, okay? Are we as good as the next guy? Can I do this? You know? Oh, I know I'm competing against Tim, and Tim always beats me, you know? We doubt ourselves. Don't doubt yourself. Work on your skills. Work on your craft. If somebody beats you, great. Find out why and use that as an opportunity to get better. Okay? Letter B, constant negative thinking about the process in our business. Remember I told you in the very beginning, especially to the new people, that 85% of the agents don't last 18 months. That's true. That's absolutely true. And it's because of their negative thinking about the process. It's because they doubt themselves and they doubt their abilities, and they don't do what it takes to do this right. They don't surround themselves with the top producers. You know, You all are here today, and that is great. I am excited for you. I'm excited that you're here. And if it's the only time that we ever see you at any Mike Ferry event, and I know a couple of you have been to an event before, but if it's the only time we ever see you, I hope this works, and I hope you do better. But if somebody only takes one golf lesson and never comes back for another golf lesson, are they going to get better just by playing golf? Nope. Okay? So come to the event in July. It's a mistake not to. I can't overemphasize that. Letter C, the fear of failure. We should never have the fear of failure. We should embrace failure, because every no brings you one step closer to the next yes. And we're in a rejection business. We're in a rejection business, but we can overcome it by practicing, by learning, by studying, by doing more practicing, more learning, and more studying. It's got to be your career that's constant work. Now, that doesn't mean 24/7. You know, there's realtors that I wonder how they ever have time to have babies with their wives, because they're never without their phones. Okay? It just doesn't even make sense. Have yourself on a schedule like a regular professional. Okay? You don't have to work 24/7. You've got to be on a schedule. Your lawyer's not 24/7. Your doctor's not 24/7. What's that?
We work 24/7.
But there's no reason to. There's no reason to. Okay? Letter D. Oh, this one put a star next to. Mentally criticizing strong agents that take a lot of listings. There's no reason to criticize anybody for taking a lot of listings. Embrace them. Now, I know how she got that listing. Do you know what she does? I'll leave that to your own imagination. Okay? Or he cuts his commission. He's a commission cutter. That's how he gets them. Okay, so are there commission cutting companies around here?
Yeah.
Have they ever gotten as big as Century 21? See, people don't get a lot of listings because they cut commissions. Because if it really worked that way, if they could really get them sold, wouldn't everybody use them? But they don't. The masses use the Century 21s and the other big companies because they see value in what they get. If you're able to show value in what you do, people will pay for the value. Okay? If you're not able to show value, they're going to hire the 2% agent or the 1% agent. And they're out there. But they don't do the majority of the business. Okay? Don't criticize people that are doing more than you. Find out how they're getting their business and learn from them. Okay? And letter E. Constantly finding reasons not to get started on becoming a great listing agent. See, there's always going to be reasons why not to get started on becoming a great listing agent. But if you do some of the things that we talk about, you will become a great listing agent, and you will be able to list a home a week at a minimum. And you will do 50 or more deals in a year. Okay, any questions about anything?
No.
Okay, so again, you know, I've done this for a long time. I went to my first Mike Ferry event 30 days into the business. 30 days into the business. And I joined coaching that day too. My wife, said, "You did what? You just got out of the Army. We don't have any money. You just signed up for $1,000 a month." I'm not even talking about coaching for you guys, by the way. But you signed up for this. We can't afford this. I said, "Hey, listen, I've got to do what I have to do in order to grow my business." I did it in the Army, and I did it successfully in the Army, and I started as a second lieutenant and retired as a lieutenant colonel. Okay? And I did what I had to do. Well, I've got to do the same thing in real estate. I have to do what I have to do to be the best that I can be. Well, about 6 months later, I'm sitting at the kitchen table, and she slaps me across the side of the head. I said, "What was that for?" She said, "What took you so long to get into that Mike Ferry coaching?" Okay? Because I did 23 deals my first 12 months in the business. Okay? And it's because I followed Mike's system, and I went to 3 to 4 events a year. 3 to 4 events a year. And it's what I had to do for my business because I had to raise a family and I had to pay the bills. Okay? I'm only asking you to go to one. It'll be a life-changing activity for you, I promise. Okay? That's what we have for today. I hope it helped you.
All right, we're going to keep the stream going because our people in Elkhart want to be part of our raffle drawing. Judy has that. I can tell you without hesitation, in the years that I've been in the business, I've followed Mike Ferry consistently. And if you can't afford to go, you're the one that really can't afford not to go, because you need to have that skill set so that you continue to grow your business. So seriously consider investing in the business, your business. So we have our some apparel, we've got some water jugs, we've got White Sox tickets for those White Sox fans. And as Ira said, we do have 2 tickets for the Mike Ferry event. So we're gonna draw those first.
You want me to do that?
I would.
Okay. Okay, for ticket number 1, Chrissy Battle. Oh my God! Oh my God!
All right. Make sure you fill out the form.
She's dancing.
Make sure you
Fill out your form.
okay? She's got it filled out. It is filled out.
And Amina Abdullah.
She's left.
Oh, you have to be present to win.
I was gonna take her out, and I thought, oh, let's just see what happens.
And she was already going too.
Gotta be present, that's the rule. We won't share the video with her.
Jill Robinson.
You better tell them no now.
Now you gotta change your trip.
Oh, you can.
Well, when is your trip?
Can I gift it?
No.
No.
When is your trip?
The 22nd.
Well, so why don't you fly from there?
Because it's family.
Well, wait. Why don't you fly?
I
Then
already have the tickets purchased, and I'm flying with family.
so fly back the day before and miss one day. Because plus, as a managing broker, it's going to help you.
Yeah, plus you gather all the knowledge for us.
That's fine.
Okay?
As long as you understand, I'm leaving the 21st.
Yeah. Just leave the 21st and get out of it what you can. Good.
All right. All right. And then for the other items, we're gonna draw your name. You can come pick what you want.
Okay. Chrissy Battle again.
Talk about Friday.
And she didn't even crinkle her cards.
Feel good about your company.
You should win the lottery next. Go get a ticket.
I know, that's right.
Do any men have their cards in here?
For your White Sox, water jugs. The White Sox tickets are right behind home base, 29 rows up.
This is Amina again. She lost twice.
Oh my God.
Somebody's not shaking that thing up right.
No, look. It's a different one.
We have the schedule, so you would pick the game you want. You want the tickets. So the information is
Judy
on there.
Rooney Davis.
Okay, is there a name on the back? Is there a name on the back?
Oh, there's a name. Oh,
Is there a name on the back?
there is a name on the back.
Yes.
Cheryl Plaskanka.
And she is attending remotely.
Remotely.
So
do
we are
ask her-
going to give
Do we ask her
her
what she wants?
a water jug. How about that?
Okay.
Pick mine.
It might be you.
No name on the back. And we have a man, Ellie Terry.
Alright. Oh, and you lost out on this White Sox ticket. We have a 2XL sweatshirt, a large t-shirt, a large
He needs medium.
t-shirt, and a small. And a water jar.
I'll take the water. I really want to.
David Taylor.
Oh, there's the White Sox ticket guy.
What do we got here? I like this one.
One in
This
our
is
hearts,
girl.
one on the charts.
Shirt.
This is a 2XL, so yeah, it doesn't go.
That one's mine, so don't touch it.
It's a large.
Yeah, I'll take that.
It'll work.
Dave, hold on, tell her.
And from the stream, Barbara Sirwatka. Did I pronounce that right? Barbara Sirwatka, congratulations.
We'll do a t-shirt. Pick one of our big guys. On the back.
Oh, another one that's being streamed, Karina Hammond.
Nope, that's right here.
Oh, you're right there. I just saw it because of the handwritten.
She didn't have any business cards.
Okay, perfect.
You're welcome. And the last one.
Jennifer Lilly.
Awesome. All right, well, thank you all for being here. Thank Ira one more time. And also, next month, well, no, this month, starting on Monday, myself and Judy are going to be hitting every single office in Indiana. And we're going to talk about Cole Realty Resource. We're going to talk about MikeFerry.com and how to find the scripts and dialogues and everything else that they provide to you guys for free. We're going to talk about Business Builder and other prospecting. So please make sure you are at the office training. And in Crown Point, we're actually going to go into Sky Slope as well. So join us for some additional live training coming up this month. The schedule will be posted. If you can't make it live in your office, go to the next one. You don't have to go to your office, okay? Thank you guys. Grab a donut on your way out. And if you have a completed registration form,
So who else is interested?
love
Who's
to collect it.
interested? Who's going that I haven't gotten this from yet?
Right, actual book.